everybody, welcome back to HitPoint, an anime news show, a JRPG news show, a niche news show, a show where Baku and I will be talking about anything and everything that catches our interest and or ire. We stream live every single Sunday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be previewing some pretty cool trailers, including a worldwide a worldwide premiere of a very cool trailer that you'll be very excited to see. And we'll also be interviewing a developer of an upcoming indie RPG called My Familiar. It might be something that you might have heard a little bit about once or twice before. And that is, in fact, where the intro theme of today's show came from, is the trailer from one of their earlier videos that was so cool. Baku, how are you doing, man?
I am doing great, other than my nose, because allergy is just kicking my butt.
Yeah, the nose is difficult. That's
allergy, man. Allergy is killing me. Yeah, I'm taking. In case anyone's wondering, yes, I am taking meds. By the way, I want to ask fairly early. I had recently made some changes to my mic, and so if I'm still sounding a little low, please let us know. I'm trying my best here to try to fix this thing. But other than that, things are going well. I bought myself a new little Fed head that I can attach to the mic, and hopefully that will solve some problems.
nice. Yeah. Well, that's super cool. By the way, I did forget to mention at the top of the show that we will also be responding to super chats at the end of the show. That's one of the other things that I'm usually supposed to say when I nail the intro, but that did not necessarily do. That's not something that I did this time. You know, I just like to change it up every now and then, like we changed up our theme song. Just gonna co-opt that from now on. But yeah, that was in fact the cover of House of the Rising Sun. Oh man. So I guess at this point, Baku, what did you got going on this week? Did you do anything fun, anything cool?
Ooh, let's see. What did I do?
Today's Easter. I forgot to mention that. Happy Easter, everybody.
Happy Easter, everybody. Yeah. Well, I have a really big interview coming up tomorrow, as a matter of fact, for a new job. So,
okay. I was gonna say I have a pretty big interview coming up, but it's tonight during our show.
That's the other big interview. So imagine how how excited I am for all these crazy things happening. But there's a lot of preparation for this interview and also the one afterwards. So hopefully we can get this. So good vibes only tonight.
Heck yeah.
Send me all your best vibes. Send me your best vibes.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I didn't really have a whole lot going on this week. I was just been swamped with work and didn't actually end up getting to put out a JRPG weekly update this week. So that's on me, but that's all right. Let's go ahead and shift gears here. I think we've kept him waiting long enough. Let's go ahead and bring on today's interviewee. There we go. It is Preston, aka Chintzy. You might have heard us referring to Chintzy often, on and off throughout we finally learned today he does have in fact a real name. Welcome, executive producer of Chintzy Inc., Preston. It's good to see you and good to have you on the show.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I know it's a long road to get me here, but you guys did it. Congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Yay!
Oh man. So, and there's a Tyler in the chat. Good to see you guys. So yeah, it's good to see you. Good to have you on. But before we actually start going through our exhaustive list of 1,000 questions, and I do have a lot of questions because, well, I'll preface this. A couple of weeks ago, Baku and I got a chance to actually get hands-on with a special demo of My Familiar, and it has been living rent-free in my head ever since. and I cannot wait to like dive in and pick the brain of the person behind all of this, because this is it's just been so wild. But let's go ahead and watch the trailer together, just so that the audience, if you've somehow missed it, I don't know why you would have missed it, but if you somehow missed that demo that we got to play together, this will give you a good idea of what to expect. This is, by the way, this is the worldwide premiere trailer. In case you didn't catch that, guys.
I mean, worldwide premiere.
There we go.
Crime running rampant, paper changing hands like pamphlets. Government can't seem to understand it.
God, look at that pixel art, man.
And this is Mega Red, by the way, you know, nerdcore rapper extraordinaire.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
You'll make it up the ladder, but you better get away before your dome gets splattered. Everybody got a plan till they get punched in the mouth. When the drama's right in front of them, they run in the house. Make a wish.
Watching back through all of these fights right here is just like going down memory lane. No. Is it possible to feel nostalgic for like a few weeks ago?
I think it is now, with the way things are going with the world. Like, you know,
Yeah.
you can yearn for 15 minutes ago.
Yeah. I feel that. And there's Chintzy. In-game Chintzy.
That's my boy.
Ah.
Now he's cracked out on the street, shell covered in gauze. The higher you climb, it's the harder you fall. They can't protect your rights if they don't exist at all. Man, another day in Wish City where the poor get ignored and the rich get busy.
Oh, so we never actually got to play with the other characters yet. But it's pretty awesome to see them here. Oh.
I tried to add some new footage in there. We're in the process of kind of like updating another trailer, you know, in the next couple months that I can give to some content creators for some sneak peek. Look at the next couple of characters, get your hands on it. So I'll let y'all know whenever we got that build rolling around.
Heck yeah. Oh,
Very
man.
nice.
Okay. First question has to be, what's with the avocado that's the strangest
Wrong scene, Darren, wrong scene.
Okay. There he is. Okay, had to get him back before he ran out of oxygen. That was scary.
I kind of like how in games you tie in your own unique branded items and whatnot, and I think that like that is actually called a guac pop.
Yeah.
And it is just like our version of an elixir, a single person elixir, and it just, you know, had some Tex-Mex pizzazz. Of course, no one's going to eat, you know, a frozen avocado.
Well, so you think you might have just started a trend.
Well, I'm not going to be the first one to market with that one.
Oh man. Well, man, that game was so much fun to play through. It has such a fun mix of like I want to say like kind of almost Super Mario RPG-esque, like timing based button presses to like do extra damage, or the follow-up kind of hits and stuff, and the sprites are big and beautiful. It's such a I already gushed about this game for so long during our playthrough of it, but man, it has just left quite the impression. So man, yeah. All right. I'll start asking, I guess, what inspired you to create Chintzy Inc. and to start developing this monstrosity of this buddy cop isekai fish out of water 90s cartoon mishmash? What? How?
Well, first
From
off,
what?
I start by saying that I thought that RPGs were going to be smaller scope than this, so I thought, I'll just do an RPG for my first one, right?
Oh,
well, yeah. But once I started getting into it, it's like I couldn't imagine making any other kind of game. Like, I don't want to just be a game dev. I want to be in a turn-based RPG game dev, because these are the games that really like hit home with me. Like, I grew up as a latchkey kid in the 80s and the 90s.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So video games were like everything. I'm sure everybody else in this chat knows too. It's just like, it's like a portal to another world. You learn from reading books and, you know, watching movies, but video games is like kind of like the sum of all art, the kind of like peak where you get to be involved. And so I just knew that I wanted to be a part of the video game industry. I just didn't know at where to approach, and so like, and how to even get involved. What skills did I need to kind of get started? So like, I just kind of like looked at some of these other indies that were coming out. You know, back when I was started looking, it was more like Undertale,
Yeah.
which the landscape has already changed so much since then. I mean, Undertale now compared to some of these other indies that are out, like Chained Echoes and Kingdom of the Dumps and just
Hmm.
Sea of the Stars. It's a whole another level. So like I just saw this like renaissance period of everyone was getting in and just making their dream game and doing the thing that they wanted to do with their life. And right before the pandemic, I was like, you know what? I want to be there. So I want to get this ball rolling. I want to see. I'm no longer content with playing games. I want to get out there and make a game. I want to be
You want to be
part
a
of
player in
the
the larger game, so to speak.
exactly.
Mm.
It just a place. I don't have to be the best or whatever, but I want to leave my mark and my story, and and essentially make the game that I wanted to play since a kid and as an adult, but just doesn't exist anymore.
Well, it looks like you're off to a fantastic start. I don't know if like you're achieving exactly what you set out for, but man, I think based on my playthrough of the demo, it feels like you're onto something really special. And everybody who's here, please be sure to go wishlist My Familiar. We have a link in the description of the video, but I'll also post a link here into the chat, or maybe Baku can if he's got a second.
I got it.
So how did your collaboration with like something classic actually get started, and Sword Monkey Games, and how is it working across multiple teams like this? How did all this kind of come about?
Well, so this is actually, I could probably talk for an hour just on this one subject, just because there's so many moving pieces. Like when they say networking is everything
Yeah.
in the indie space, it really is. And I know there's some people who have all the talents in their wheelhouse and on their belt and tools on their belt that they can just sit back and do it all themselves. But you know, for me, for someone who's outside of this industry, who had a clear idea, clear budget, and those kind of things, but I didn't have the talent, I knew it pretty early on that I was going to need to reach out and network and find some of these key players for these keystone kind of like roles that I was going to need to tell the scope of the story that I wanted to tell,
Yeah.
essentially. So I reached out. I was actually just doing some research and I was reading what is it? Reverse Design right here. We'll do a little book plug from a buddy here, Patrick
Hmm.
Holloman.
Okay.
I was just reading some of his reverse design game game design books, just kind of getting a feel for like what kind of skills I needed to list of what type of players I needed in a game to create all these moving pieces.
Hmm.
So I reached out to him through his contact information, and he happened to be making a video game of their own. So he was partnered up with Something Classic, who also shares a member with Sword Monkey Studios, they are programmers from Canada,
Yeah.
America's Hat, and we're they were already had that synergy. They were already working on a game. They'd already done Shadows of Adam together. So like I was very lucky to kind of meet them at the point that they were at in their game development, to where they were willing to take on some more work and sort of, use working for my game to help fund some of their game. And it just kind of seemed we share technology and just kind of riff back and forth and test each other's games. It just was like a perfect fit, kind of one of those really weird serendipitous kind of moments where that's why I
Yeah.
say networking is everything. Because if you don't find your right people, or if you're not the right person, or just keep moving. There's so many talented people in this space,
Oh,
especially now. It
it's
is like a gold
surprising.
rush.
I
Mhm.
And
know.
there's just so many people out there that are just amazing talents that could do any one of these roles. And so, like, if you don't have the right group, keep looking. You'll find them. You just got to keep on, making the thing that you enjoy, and, finding the people who are in the space that are also making those same kind of moves, and reach out. Don't be afraid. I mean, I have anxiety and a lot of other issues, but like, send an email. You don't have to go face to face. You don't have to just go down to a con. Just send an email if you like someone's book. Send an email if you like someone's art. Who knows? Those conversations lead all kinds of crazy places that end up, some of my now fast friends and work colleagues.
Yeah. Well, it's really wild to me seeing such like beautiful games coming out in the indie space at this point. Like you said, it's a completely different game than it was when like Undertale first came out. Undertale was, foundational in a lot of ways, but it's not exactly like the best looker. If you like put it up in a lineup against like a lot of modern indie RPGs, it's very kind of subdued or quaint in some ways as far as like the visual presentation, but like the people out there that you can find that can do these incredible pieces of pixel art, it's like it's like this talent or skill that was like once in a generational beautiful thing you could see maybe on a Super Nintendo or PlayStation. It's like now like there are so many people who are able to do such fantastic, phenomenal, creative work. So like it's just yeah. Anyways, it's just wild how many more people there are today that can do this sort of thing than I ever expected. And yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, other than just like,
too.
dang.
It's everywhere. Like you have access to talented people from Brazil and Russia
yeah.
and China and Japan. It's just like everyone's all these people converging in all these mutual, creative spaces nowadays. And it's just, besides being on a different time schedule, if you can make it work, you could hire anybody. You can kind of Swiss Army knife your best perfect dream team if you have the budget and if you have the time and you find the right people.
So what's the story behind the name of your studio, Chintzy Inc? I because like I know that there's a Chintzy character. Who came first, the chicken or the egg? I guess that's the question here.
The Chintzy or the ink, huh? Chintzy for sure. Like the company name came after My Familiar had its kind of identity. And so like pretty much making the company just to have your game hosted for Steam, it's my company is literally just me.
Yeah.
And I freelance art to I have freelance contracts with artists all over the place, but it is Chintzy's Ink just me. He just happened to be one of those characters that like we made him earlier in pre-production and I just gravitated towards him because he's kind of like the what is it, like the Turks in Final Fantasy VII,
Yeah,
like the
like
Goldfish
Reno.
Poop Gang, the kind of like group that follows you and harasses you. They're not really top tier threats. They're more just like kind of an annoyance that sometimes become bigger threats over time. And I
Yeah.
just like the idea of like my company mascot being this, instead of being like some wise person or someone to give you an enchanted sword, it's just some jerk who kind of follows the heroes around and kind of gives them a hard time. So that I think that to me fits my personality more. Not that I'm exactly a jerk, but I like to push buttons and I like to see how the player reacts, and that's more
Sure.
interesting to me than, you know, looking like a, being a Merlin, so to speak. No
Yeah.
Merlins here, just Chinsies.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, they say that like to be a good like dungeon master in the realm of D&D, if you're into that, is for the DM is to make problems, not solutions. And it feels like that's the perfect role for a game developer. You're just here to throw problems at people, and that kind of works. Kind of reminds me of Sultan Pepor from Chrono Cross, as far as like the people who just show up to harass you all the time.
It's one of my favorite tropes, I think, and with My Familiar, we get to lean into all the tropes that normally you're trying to like avoid like the plague, but with us, it's like you just pile on tropes. It's a buffet of tropes, and they all are intersecting with each other, and we don't even try and like mask it or hide it. We just
Oh
embrace
no,
it.
you lean into it. Yeah, definitely. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, but I feel like tropes are tropes for a reason. It's because they're crowd pleasers. And as much as some people like to say that, oh, they're passe or whatever, it's just, I don't think that's always the case. I think that it's, I think tropes have a solid purpose. And
Especially in the era that I'm leaning into, the 80s and the 90s pop culture and stuff, like it was nothing but tropes duct taped to other tropes. Like that's just that was entertainment.
it's it's like the story about like the turtle that holds up the earth, and what's underneath the turtle? Oh, it's just another turtle. It's just tropes all the way down.
Tropes all the way down for sure.
So before making My Familiar, I mean, this looks like an incredibly complex game. what did you do before this? Like, have you had any prior experience in game dev before My Familiar? Like, because this looks like, and it feels like when you're playing it, a very well developed and well rounded sort of system. Have you done this before? Because I didn't find anything.
Absolutely not. I this is my first entry into game dev, and I kind of picked up, bit off like one of the biggest asks that you can do. Creating like RPGs, which are turn-based RPGs, which are like 3 games hot
Yeah.
glued together to be one giant game. So I've never done anything like that. I've done projects, larger projects, in my own profession. I do real estate and from a finance background. So like
Mm-hmm.
I've been project manager on a team and I know what it's like to have all these different moving cogs and
Yeah.
whatnot, but never in this industry. So I mean, it kind of gave me an advantage learning how to run a team, which I think that maybe like a lot of indie devs don't have because they're usually by themselves or they're like not used to running the team themselves. They're being like a cog in the machine as opposed to the person at the top. So
Yeah.
it gave me a lot of insight to find the right people. That's I think my number one job is to find the right people to make this game the best version of itself that it can be. That's kind of like my testament. No ego, no
Mm-hmm.
BS, just like we don't have this. Who do I need to get this? And luckily for me, I was able to find Patrick Holloman, the Sword Monkey guys, and Something Classic guys, and Tim Windorf, who is my creative director. So like he's had experience working, managing teams and whatnot before.
Yeah.
So I like to lean. I put the right people in the right position, and then I lean on their experience, and then I just try and hover over them, but not too much to where it affects productivity and whatnot. So this is a new experience, but I'm actually hoping that this is a door to the industry because I would love to be here. It's a lot of stress, but I have a lot of stress in my day job too. So
Yeah.
I'm used to high stress situations, high risk, high reward, and so I feel at home. And this is something I'm passionate about. Real estate, you're not passionate about every house you see, every piece of land you see.
You don't?
Finances, you're not really thrilled about every
Mm-hmm.
investment or especially in hindsight, right?
Sure.
But with this, I'm proud of everything from the ground up. We built it from scratch. And I think that we've built something that's pretty amazing, that in the indie space, something that's competing for the same shelves as some of these bigger, newer RPGs that are swinging for the fences that have these massive teams that have done this forever. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I'm honored to have the right people to kind of help me make this big push. And I
Yeah.
think it helps that you choose a career that you're passionate in, and if not, then move that passion to something else, and find that career, find something, keep moving. Don't be afraid to fail upwards or downwards or whatever, because through failure you pick yourself up. I mean, when I first
Mm-hmm.
started doing this, I didn't immediately hire a team. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna make the next Undertale. I've never made music. I've never drawn a single sprite, but I'm gonna do it, right? I'm just gonna go in there for a
Uh-huh.
year, come out the other side. And about 2, 3 months into it, I was like, I cannot do this. I don't have between the ADHD, the lack of expertise. It just making the game program wise isn't my passion. Drawing
No.
pictures, making story outlines, um, meeting new people,
Mm-hmm.
creating larger, a large that's my passion. I want to be in the industry in a bad way. I want to be there and I want to be working in in the trenches with people I respect and making something that we all, are just thrilled to create through the blood, sweat, and tears because life's hard, work's hard. You might as well
Yeah.
put those blood, sweat, and tears into something that
That you're
you
proud
love
of.
and
Yeah.
that you're proud of at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, well
Um,
said, sir.
so let's shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about like the game design process that you guys have been going through for My Familiar. I already kind of touched on this before about like how it feels reminiscent of like Super Mario RPG with the time button attacks, but also like in like how large the sprites are and just like, oh man, I could gush for a while. I'm trying to hold back, but
Well,
how?
each one of those things that you're gushing about they have a lot of purpose behind them too. Like the
Oh yeah,
sprites were very much inspired by more like Capcom style fighter games instead of traditional RPGs because we wanted to go bigger, go better.
yeah. Well, I
Um,
Baku noticed this. I didn't even notice it at first. how actually the player characters are displayed on the left facing to the right during combat, which, you know, in my mind is like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because it's kind of like, you know, like a beat 'em up RP, or not a beat 'em up RPG, but like a beat 'em up from, like, you know, you progress from left of the screen to the right of the screen, and like, and that kind of in a way looks like a beat 'em up, but with turn-based mechanics, which is super interesting. But it works so well, but it's so counter to like the typical, like, everybody on the right facing to the left. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why we have that sort of weird convention in the RPG space. But yeah, what are your, I guess, how did you go about like balancing the gameplay here with this? Because it feels pretty well balanced as well, just from the demo at least.
Well, first of all, with like the sprites, you know, they're more like Capcom style. Like we don't have the CRT filters, so we wanted to go big
Mm,
and go home with like the big squishy sprites. We wanted to be an
yeah.
elevation. I didn't want this to just be, you know, a reimagine, or I didn't want it to be just a, you know, a retelling of like the older kind of stories, and I don't want to have to be you know, strict about the limitations, which those games kind of were made by the limitations at the time. So
Yeah,
now
that
that
is
we don't
true.
have those same technical limitations, I kind of wanted to just do what you would expect if these, you know, great artists had these technology to do these kind of things. Like what decisions would they have made? And we wanted to just do like more like, I guess the idea is hyper polished, smooth, buttery systems. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I just want it to be a good time.
Yeah.
Our game is more about style and vibe and having fun and forward momentum. I didn't
Oh,
want to like be so worried about like paying homage to like the shoulders of the giants we're standing on, that we are
mhm.
afraid to like, you know, go in a new and interesting way. And especially with all these RPGs that are out, or new games coming out, it doesn't
Yeah,
hurt to have your own style, and you really kind of have to swing for a fence to differentiate yourself.
it's
Even the
true.
left to right thing, like sometimes those things that just kind of like, we're so used to RPGs with this language being told in this certain way that something like that kind of throws you off. And then at first you're like, I don't know how I feel about this. But by the time you've kind of got used to it, a couple battles, you're like, okay, I dig this. I get what this is coming from. I totally am over it. It's like reading, like me reading a manga, you know, like a
Oh yeah.
manga, like
Mhm.
I have to read this way. Well, now they'll have to play a Western RPG this way, I guess.
Yes.
I was gonna say it might have something to do with that, Derek,
Oh,
because like how turn based, a lot of it came from Japan, and then the
mhm.
books are written from
Oh, that
right
that
to
does
left,
make sense.
right, and but then
Yeah.
now the English language is left to right, so it actually makes
Mhm.
sense. I think for most people that would make sense, unless you're just, you know, like a long time like RPG player would be like, wait, hold on, it's like that kind of
Yeah.
flip, but
You know,
otherwise,
it
I don't think, yeah.
it reminded me of so after our playthrough the few weeks ago, I was talking to Baku. I was like, man, it'd be so cool if, like, at the end, if he ever, so this is an isekai, by the way, and if the
Yeah.
character ever happens to exit the isekai area, if it flips back to being like right to left again, just
Oh,
randomly
no.
at the end, like in the real world it's right to left, but in the isekai it's left to right. I don't know.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah, kind of like a mirror world situation. Actually, I remember whenever you said that, I remember writing it down. So
oh.
we take all kinds of notes like that when people say some fun, interesting ideas, and we just kind of throw them on a piece of paper, and we'll revisit them if it makes sense, because things like that really are kind of fun. You know, just things that like
Oh
you don't
yeah.
think of until someone else. It's kind of like going to Reddit, you know. Someone's
Uh-huh.
already said a comment that's way funnier than you could ever even
Yeah.
think of before you get there. Like you go
Yeah.
to say one joke and it's already been said 10 different ways. So like
Uh-huh.
having that kind of like, you can watching people have the feedback back from the games they play, you'd be surprised how many devs are just sitting there like, what did he say? With a pen and paper, and just like ready to just like, you know,
I love that. It
steal preemptively. You know, I don't think that's
sure.
stealing, right?
Steal like an
Borrow.
artist.
You
Yeah.
guys offered it up, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
steal like an artist. Totally offered it up.
Exactly. Inspired by.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Inspired by. So, you know, it also reminds me of a phrase that, you know, none of us are as smart as all of us. And I think that also ties in a lot to like your method of like building a team of people who have like their areas of expertise and drawing upon that rather than just like brute forcing, no, this is how I want it. And that's so cool. And it seems to be working really well. So what's like one of the more toughest challenges that you've had to overcome so far in this development? I assume that you might have encountered a few tough challenges tackling a whole brand new beast of game development, huh? And what are you most proud of?
Honestly, there's so much to be proud of. There's so much like the game industry is so infinitely complex, and it's so many moving pieces, and it's so hard to even get ahead of it or even to say, "Aha, I know what this is going," because technology is always changing. Cultural
Mm-hmm.
trends are always changing. All these things that direct the game industry this way or that are just happening and happening so fast now. So I don't think you really can, you know, get ahead of that kind of thing. So, uh, all right. So what was the question again? I kind of went on a
I
tangent.
just
No
like
It
worries.
was like not a good
challenges that you've
part.
overcome that you're proud of.
Mhm.
Okay, too many challenges. I guess it's so many. I could sit here and talk for another hour too. So I'll just go
We
about like
have
the one that
hours
I
for you.
think.
Just so you're aware. we have
Yeah,
hours for you.
No, I have
my
more
wife only
questions.
gave me a handful of hours tonight. Sorry, guys. I can't
That's
be
all
here
right.
till the morning.
I'm kidding. No, go ahead, sir.
But like the hardest part, I think. So also, there's like a coin. The other side of the coin to having you can hire artists from all over the world, hire the best at their craft, that kind of thing. The other side of that coin is that there's different time periods and people are going through different things in their life
Oh yeah.
politically, culturally, physically, mentally, just trying to keep everyone on the same ball and kind of on the same page across all of that throughout years. And most of us are like have a day job, a full-time job, even where I'm transitioning out of mine to where this is my familiar, I'm full-time there. I
Oh
barely have
wow.
to go and check my investments and just stuff. It's a point to where I'm trying to put as much energy into this right now. But
Mm-hmm.
the first four years of production and pre-production and whatnot wasn't the case. We're all have our day jobs, and even these devs, they all have multiple projects. They're working on Quartet and Forge of the Fae, and sometimes we share artists, and sometimes we share tech. So there's just all these moving pieces to where it's infinitely beneficial. But because there's so many moving pieces, it's so hard to get everyone on the same page, the same schedule. And so my most proud achievement, I think, is building this team out. Like, it's not the game is itself is great, but the game
Mm-hmm.
itself is great is because of the team that I've built. Um, and I say like I built it, like, like Daddy Warbucks over here with like a railroad tycoon type situation. No, it's like I found these people who were also, pursuing their dreams and
Yeah, you're
in
putting the band
parallel
together.
dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like a heist movie.
Yeah.
You son of a gun, I'm in, like that that kind of moment where and so like it was very chaotic until I found the right people, and then the more people you find that you're your tribe, it becomes more crystal clear, and before you know it, you've built something really substantial, and then y'all built the vertical slice, and that's really substantial, and so I think having all of those moving pieces and trying on all these different hats. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you wear a new hat for the day, like trying to set up Kickstarter pages or this, that kind of thing. Everything is if you've never done it before, it's a brand new job. There's someone out there that specializes in that thing. They've done it for months, years, whatever. So like a
Yeah.
game development seems to be for me as a producer more about all the things I never imagined about being in the industry is my reality than the things that like kind of drew me to the industry in the first place. It's like I'm down there, in the pipes and stuff with the grease on my face. Like I'm just
Yeah.
running this paper over to this person. Like I'm not a producer. I am like a grunt at the bottom, but I'm also a producer at the top. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like a person climbing the ladders in between. It's like burger time over here. I'm just trying to hit the patty at the right time and capture the sauce. It's just so many
Yeah.
moving things
Mhm.
that it's just chaos incarnate. And if you can't embrace that kind of idea of just like working in that stressful kind of all over the place with that same kind of morning excitement, like, hey, okay, what do I get to do this morning? As opposed to, oh my gosh, I have all these things I have to do. It really just, that's what
Yeah.
I'm most proud of is just like, okay, I wake up, I have these tasks, new things, but I'm not scared anymore. Just got to put this fire out over here, draw this picture, write this outline, like just being able to move around all these different talented artists and create something substantial is just, the experience of a lifetime.
Yeah, we call that servant leadership, and it's a thing. And a lot of people are very proud of being able to do that. And it takes a very special person to be able to do that. So I just want to call that out. But also, maybe for some of the folks who are watching now, like if you've seen our interviews from before, you get a sense. But just hearing the kind of team makeup, from Preston, right? Like a lot of these developers, they have their full-time jobs, right? And so when these indie games are taking more time to come to market, for example, it's like, well, what's taking you? It's like, well, they're not working full time. Like, you may forget that these people don't do this full time. We see a game on Steam, right? Like, maybe from a regular consumer standpoint, you see a game on Steam, you're like, well, that's a game on Steam, and then Square Enix has this game on Steam, Capcom's a game on Steam. They're all just games. Like, I don't really care from a consumer standpoint, right?
Yeah.
But we've got to remember that, like, unlike Square Enix and the Capcom and the EA or whatever companies that they're gonna buy next, those people are full time with a giant studio with like people working 9 to 5 on getting this thing to market. Indie games not so much. And so there lies the passion in taking a lot longer to reach like the goal, of actually releasing this thing. All the blood, sweat, and tear, and like cannot be understated. So thanks for doing it for some of us who dreamed but never actually took the time to do these things. A lot of us, I'm sure, like I want to make a game, but
Me too.
like and I've said, maybe I have not said it enough to the other indie devs, but it's inspirational to hear that you have actually gone and done that, but in a way that's realistically like feasible, like financially speaking, it's not like a reckless endeavor, right? And so
Well, hold on.
and you're right.
It can be see, that's another part of the coin though, is inherently it is kind of reckless to
Yep.
create art
Yeah.
is you can do it safer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You can do it the best you cross all your T's and dot all your I's the best you can, but you can't predict things, and at the end of the day, you don't know how it's going to be received. Like
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
making
There's
these
definitely
games,
risk.
the reason they're hard to do is
Mhm.
because it's not a guaranteed investment. It's, if anything, it's the opposite. In the real estate world, the finance world, the risk rewards are usually more cut and dry. You
Mhm.
have your interest rates, and so to speak, you can kind of calculate where you're going to be in a couple years. Um, making a movie, making a game, making art, it's like you could burn through your entire budget and might maybe never make a dollar back. You have to be able to risk it all. You have to have
Yeah.
something to risk as well, whether that's your time, your blood, sweat, your tears, that's a lot too. You're giving your best years to
Oh
something
yeah.
that who knows how it's paid off. So like
Opportunity
people could
costs.
look at
Yeah.
game developers and it's like the typical art kind of thing. Like, oh, if someone's a musician or that, they imagine to live like a rock star. It's like, no, not really. We live like mostly like starving artists. Like we have to budget our food.
Yeah.
We budget everything. Like um, we have to make sure that we have to budget in an industry that is volatile to budget. So like
Mhm.
I would
Oh.
recommend that if you're gonna get into a game and build a game and put your time and money into it, it just has to be your passion. It has
Mhm.
to like if you're gonna hit a wall at any point in there and be like, this just isn't for me, it's okay that you don't know that until you get to that point sometimes too, but hindsight looking back, like you have to be able to just risk it all and lose it all and put everything on the line to put yourself out there, I think. that maybe other people have different ways of doing it, but that's just from my position. That seems like to be my only entry point. Like
Just got
I
to go
could
all
sit
in.
around for 15, 20 years and build these soft skills to kind of create this thing, or but and for an industry, who knows what it's going to be like, or I can get in now while there's this renaissance period where there's a bunch of amazing artists who are just, willing to put their whole souls into these games, and so I try to remind people, even if it's a big budget game, like these are all our passions. So tread lightly on our passions. That doesn't mean you can't, give us feedback, because the feedback is the lifeblood of the indie dev. I mean, that's our QA. That's our quality assurance right there. You guys testing our game, you guys think we're giving you a free demo, and it's actually you guys are giving us free, bug fixes and finding all that kind of stuff that we really can't afford to do 100%.
Well,
So,
surprisingly,
it's
I didn't
very
find any bugs. I tried. I didn't try that hard. I probably
No, 2 years ago, actually. True story. I think it might have been just the guys over at Something Classic. They had Corta and My Familiar running at MacFest, and I was at MacFest. And I found a couple of bugs on the My Familiar game, but they were like fixing it like right there and then. They're like, oh yeah, we find some bugs. But it's so cool, guys, to be part of that process, and I think that's a part of the fun with the indie game culture too. Like you have these
Mhm.
in-person meetings with some developers. Sometimes you're able to talk to them, ask questions, play the game, find bugs. You see them at work. Like here's the like if you imagine, like here's the monitor that you play with, right? You're controlling it,
Mhm.
you're playing the game. Behind that monitor is a developer with a laptop looking at the game code as it's being played.
just
And if you
watching the
run into a
Matrix code.
thing, yeah, you let them know, like, hey, sorry, there's like a bug, there's like a freeze or whatever. They're like, oh yeah, here, monitor, da da da, and they check it. Oh yeah, okay, cool. Like, and then they'll like reset it for you. It's like, yeah, see if you can do this again, and like they'll see whether or not you're able to recreate the bug immediately, so that they can like fix it right there and then. It's
Yeah.
so cool. It's so
Oh.
cool. It's such an experience.
It's the
So
digital trenches, man. That's where a lot of the camaraderie comes from too. Like, even if you're not on your team, like you see a dev struggling at some of those events, you're like, "Hey, man, you need this tape. You need this screwdriver. What do you need, man? You need this screen over here. I can move this over." Like, y'all are all kind of struggling, kind of like
oh yeah.
paying $0. I mean, you're paying your money to be there at most of those events,
Mhm.
unless you got selected or whatever, or even just for travel
Yeah.
stuff. So, like, y'all are all just there because of your passion, and y'all are leaning on each other, and that the trenches, that mentality, it really kind of carries over into the spirit, I think, of some of these games. And we all just want to see each other succeed. Even the ones that we're competing with directly, I want them to break through the glass ceiling for all of us. I'm
Oh
there
yeah.
cheering on everybody who's doing these kind of things. I love to look at things from a competitor standpoint because I just love businesses and like looking at them, dissecting your angle and this and that. But I'm always one of those people who would be the first person to like, you know, tell someone my insights. I'm not trying to keep it to myself or whatever. I just want
Mhm.
us all to do better. I want us all to kind of
100%.
like get that
Yeah.
seat at the table that I think the indie artists are really, deserving to be at.
Yeah,
I
it could
think
be
that kind of
friendly
ties into.
competition, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't competition doesn't have to be malicious. Like it could be a
Oh yeah.
friendly competition, and right, yeah.
Well,
So
I was gonna
I
say, I
sense that.
think when we were talking to what the developer was, it Forge of the Fae, they were saying that it's that indie RPG development at this point is collaborative way more than it is competitive, and the just it's kind of this kind of big group effort in a lot of ways to just help each other make the best things that you can. Was it Forge of the Fae or
No,
gosh,
well, the thing
I
is, I think multiple
a lot of people have
um
said that, yeah.
interviewee that we've talked to had similar sentiment, like either expressive, like expressly or not. Like
Yeah.
we see that one way or another.
Because Seed of
Yeah, so that's
Nostalgia's
really
dev definitely also said something along those same lines just last week.
cool.
Um,
Yes.
so yeah, I'm getting a lot of the same vibes. It's almost like a weird kind of, well, I mean, we're all kind of weird, but kind of a weird big family of developers who, can kind of lean on each other's
For sure.
expertise.
Well, even
So
Forge of the Face specifically, you were saying that we lean on each other all the time. Not only do we share some key members like our creative director,
yeah.
and Sword Monkey and just a bunch of artists and whatnot, but like for instance, tech for My Familiar, like where your partner follows you, your ally follows you around,
Mm-hmm.
that started in My Familiar, and I was like, hey, um, David at Forge of the Fae was like, hey, do you think that we could kind of like work together and kind of use that kind of tech and kind of build off each other? And I was like, yeah, for sure, man. Like, go put it in your game, and anything that you guys find on y'all's end, bring it back into ours, and so we help each other kind of make a feature better than if we were just doing it on our own. It's kind of like Naruto with the shadow clones or something. You can kind of go out and just like do a bunch of things, and that information you get back is so key, and it's all useful, and it's all not just theoretical. It's like, tested and true, and you're like, hey, this works better than this, and the programmers just swap that over to your game. You're using the same programs and stuff, so like
So nice.
there is a lot of that. It's not just camaraderie. It's something else. Like it's
Kind of like
you're
almost a
part of
co-op.
something bigger than yourself. Like I thought you were about to say cult, and I was like, exactly.
Oh.
That's it. We're like the cult, and we're all just like, here, drink the Kool-Aid, man. This is good Kool-Aid over here. Which one do you like? And so it's like
I
we're
like
all
I
just
like that
trying
even
to,
better.
help each other.
Oh man. So speaking of cults, I don't know of a good segue here. So beneath the humor and quirkiness of My Familiar, there's definitely some kind of darker narrative edge. How are you kind of balancing these tones throughout the game? Because it feels like a fun mix of this like really humorous side of things, but then there's also like this really very dark undertone of like how the game even starts. And I'm not even gonna spoil that for anybody who didn't see the demo, but it's jarring, and it's like, wow, that's how this starts, and it's great. How do you strike that balance, man?
Well, I think it becomes one of those things where I have so many sources of like inspiration
Uh-huh.
that they all kind of like contribute into like a greater, bigger picture. And I would say my first inspiration, well, when I think of a turn-based RPG, if I think about it just like the old ones, they're almost to me as a consumer, someone watching and playing,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's almost like literally like an anime you're playing through
Oh
with
yeah,
combat that you get to. So to me, like turn-based RPGs that are JRPG narratives mixed with anime, to me that's already kind of like they're one and the same, just different mediums almost.
totally.
And I feel like anime does this really well. It's one of the things I love about anime so much is it can be everything. It could have a universe where things are super goofy and playful, but also super dark and creepy, and like all that changes is one character or one situation or whatever, and the art style that allows the room to, you don't know if it could be goofy giant eyeballs that pop up or blood splatters everywhere. There's just it's almost like the Western cartoons that they're learning from too. That you can just make things, just you can make up your own kind of visual language with the anime, kind of um,
Yeah.
visual look. And then also, I think a lot of inspirations outside of stuff like RPGs and narrative, the things you would normally think in an RPG, I would say stuff like, I'm a really big fan of Jim Henson,
Oh
like
yeah.
everything, like Labyrinth,
Oh yeah.
Muppets, Dark Crystal, like anything that guy
The
touched.
Storyteller. You ever watch that series? Oh.
Oh yeah, yeah, I love anthology series of all kinds
Mm.
too, like, especially the Storyteller, that kind of. So like those worlds where you weren't really sure, even as a kid. Like, I mean, if you look at it now, like some of that stuff's pretty traumatizing. Like, I
Oh
tried to
yeah.
watch Labyrinth with my kids, and it's like I forgot about like the predator who steal the Goblin King who steals the child, and then the goblins are running around. And I was like,
Oh
when
yeah.
I was a kid, we were like, oh, this is great, like this is the best thing ever. But now kids are watching it, and it's like all dark and like puppety and
Oh
stuff, and they're like,
gosh.
I don't know if I like this. This is uncomfortable to me. My kids immediately were like, nope, turn that stuff off. And so I had to fast forward to some of the good parts, to
Oh
get them
man.
into it. It's like, see, they're fine. Like you're trying to get your kid to take a picture of Mickey Mouse at the
Oh
theme
no.
park or something.
No.
But I
Yeah.
like those universes, dude. You don't know how to feel. It's
Yeah.
all up to the character and the person interacting, the player interacting. Like some characters are nice and they look cool and fun, but then they kind of have this dark element to them where they start to be creepy, and they really don't have the character's best interest. So that changes the
Yeah.
context of it all. And some of those characters from Jim Henson are both like look at the Skeksis in Dark Crystal, like absolutely horrifying.
Oh yeah.
Also absolutely hilarious. So it's like this weird like juxtaposition of these kind of like elements, fantasy elements, and just I also feel like there's another level of that kind of with the Eastern and Western. Like I love JRPGs where from the Eastern world and they were so influential to me. But I also wanted to kind of do the Western take on that. I mean, what does it look like from our point of view? Not just a parody like this is Earthbound, which is hilarious in its own stuff too, but
Yeah.
like what if I up the production value instead of an Earthbound, but tell the kind of, setting in that more Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 80s, 90s grungy
Yes.
modern fantasy world, you know.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it so much. And just like looking through this right now, like so many things are coming to mind. Like, I mean, we're the generation that grew up watching Bambi. God, I think All Dogs Go to Heaven was one of my favorite movies growing up. Dude, I watched the ending scene for that the other day, and I was just like, why is this so sad? Like the whole, like I don't know. I feel like I was a lot denser as a child when it comes to a lot of the like emotional storytelling. And I was just like, oh yeah, just like I see through the sad stuff. Maybe as a kid, that's something that you have to do. I don't know. Like Brave Little Toaster.
Different to our Brave Little Toaster. That one alone, like
the scene with the the firefighter guy. Like what the heck? That or the flower. Oh man, the whole thing is just so like gut wrenching in so many ways, but also so bright and cheerful and colorful. I feel like there's this generation of like entertainment for children that just has this sort of like twisted cynicism, like just baked in under its core, and I love it, but I hate it.
I think it's also just a product of the art of our times. Like when we were kids, when a movie came out for the months, that was the movie you saw, whether you're an adult or a child. You know,
oh yeah.
If Little Mermaid came out, you're seeing Little Mermaid every time you went to the theater for the next 4 months or whatever.
Yeah.
Same thing with like I remember seeing Tremors when I was a kid, and now like kids, my son watches it and he's like laughing at me. Like this is what you used to think was scary. I was like, yeah, any minute a worm could come up and grab me through the ground. This is terrifying. And if under the right circumstances, it kind of was. Like if with no context, all of a sudden you're afraid to go anywhere as an 8-year-old after seeing one movie.
Oh,
so
dude.
like.
Oh, dude, I was afraid to take a shower after watching The Shining for fear that there'd be some like corpse in the bathtub. Like, yeah, I get what you're saying. Anyways, childhood trauma aside, I could go on. I have a big sister who definitely pushed me to way too much horror. That's actually why I hate horror games, Baku.
You love horror games. What are you talking about?
Okay, so, oh gosh. Okay. Jesse
I watched
Myers?
Alien as a child, by the way. And
you watched what as a child?
Alien.
Oh yeah, that explains.
That'll mess you up for
explains
real.
a lot. So
nothing like a good old-fashioned 1979 body horror to like keep you up at night as a child.
Oh jeez, yes.
So is it Jesse Myers or is it Mears? Who's
Tyler Mears.
Oh, Tyler. What? Okay, I totally botched the here. Let me write that correctly. It's Tyler Mears. Okay.
Tyler. Yes.
Thank you.
I think you might have probably just picked up some. We have so many different musicians that have worked on some of these tracks, and a lot of them get pushed up to the title, and a lot of them have Tylers. And as a matter of fact,
how many Tylers do you have on the team? By the way, that is one of the
Tylers. Do you have?
At least 4, I think.
Okay. That's I think got to be one of our highest Tyler counters so far.
It's like the Gremlins, you feed them after midnight and they're just Tylers popping out.
So Tyler's soundtrack, it matches the game's tone so perfectly. What kind of direction did you give to achieve like that kind of sound? I mean, obviously it's not just direction; it's also incredible amounts of work and talent and creativity. But what did you say? Did you like just have at it, or did you?
I like to imagine that like we were partners climbing that mountain. I was just on
Yeah.
his back like a backpack as he was making the climb, giving him some suggestions here and there.
Yeah.
But
He was the Sherpa as you're ascending Everest.
exactly, I'm the one up there. And who knows, I'll probably be the first person to be up at the next landmark, probably not make it back down. But the Tylers would survive for sure.
The
No,
Tiners would definitely
he did
survive.
he did
No.
some so he can do just about any music. I mean, I've never heard him not kill a track personally. I
Mhm.
love everything that he does. But whenever I found out that like he specialized in big band, jazz, live instruments and stuff, like to me, I was like, that's where I already wanted to go. Like I was a huge fan of like big band jazz, and especially
Mhm.
with doing a buddy cop noir, it just
Oh
made
yeah.
sense, like telling the story of America. I mean, you can't tell it without jazz, without rock and roll, without all these different elements that
Oh
kind of
yeah.
like, kind of boiled over here and kind of created a substance, a brand new way of art. And so, like, when I knew he was doing that, I was like, perfect. That's exactly what I want. It was another one of those serendipitous things. It just felt like all the pieces were already coming to place without even having to make too much of a suggestion. And
Heck
so I
yeah.
just leaned into it. And we were at the beginning of the pandemic, we started pre-production, and then the pandemic hit. And
Mhm.
I was like, you know what? We have all these great artists who are looking for work. I want to do live. Let's lean into the live jazz as much as possible.
Oh
And
man.
it allowed us to kind of like it just kind of built its own personality. We just what does a JRPG sound like if you replace, the stock instruments with jazz? How many of those do you need to replace before it starts becoming bigger and bigger? And we also kind of like lucked out with some things that during the process. First of all, it's more expensive, of course, because you're doing live band jazz. But
Mhm.
in some ways it's actually saves you money because you have paid this artist at the hours,
Yeah.
already, so they can do multiple solos. So one
I
thing I'm
heard.
really proud about my
Mhm.
familiar is that like you can sit there and listen to one track that's looping, say like the Twinkle Row main
Yes.
theme, and you will hear new solos, for 3 or 4 iterations. So like
Hmm.
it allowed us to kind of like expand the music into something bigger. So you're not just hearing the same 3 to 4 minutes over and over and over. You're
Mhm.
actually hearing like a 30-minute, chunk of like unique music as you go and you're backtracking. And so it was just enough to like you feel like you hear something new, and so it doesn't create that
Yeah.
sense of fatiguingness
It
that
never
normally
got
whenever you're
old.
running around.
Yeah.
Even as I'm developing it, like, I'm running around here, I've played this game so much that I should be sick of it, but I can listen to it every single time. Not only are they bangers, but they're, like, multiple ones, and I'm like, "Oh, I forgot of this one. I remember this one," and then another solo will just come, and you're like, "Wow, I forgot we commissioned that one. That was really something," you know? So
Man, I swear, if this doesn't have, I mean, I understand that there's a lot up in the air about whether or not you can make a physical release of the game, but holy cow, buddy. Uh, could I get like a CD or a vinyl?
oh, we're definitely
Okay.
that's definitely planned. Like, we're very music heavy. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
the music is massive for us.
It's so
It's
good.
not only a big part of the identity, but it's also just, it's one of the things I love about RPGs is whenever you go from place to place, you see the new sprites, you see the new song, it
Yeah.
creates that world building in your head. And I think that just
Mhm.
having that strong sense of the world with the music layered on top of the complex sprites, it just gives you a more surreal kind of experience, more like you're kind of wandering around in an interactive art experience,
Yeah.
kind of like one of those Meow Wolf kind of places or something, as opposed
Oh
to
yeah.
just playing another video game that's two-dimensional. Anything that sucks you into it, and music is just one of those that it does it.
It
Like
gives that sense of
you can
space
take
for sure. Yeah.
Mhm. And
Oh,
you can take away everything else and just have good music, and that's good enough art on its own.
I mean,
Can I ask
it
a?
really
Oh,
could be, but they definitely synergize and create something greater than just the sum of its parts. And I think that's also part of it is like I'm not just experiencing the music like, oh yeah, I'm listening to some jazz and it's good jazz, but it's like I'm in this world and it sounds like this. And there's interplay between the visuals and the audio. And it's so good. And in the animated intro, by the way, was also really good. Uh,
yeah.
how did you get that made? What was that process like? You're just like, here's some characters that look like a bunch of little action figures, go.
So that's one of those like many different hat situations. I've never directed a music video before or an animation like that. Now I can officially say that I have. There was a lot of different iterations, but for the most part, so I found who actually did the animation. So if y'all ever watched some of the new anime coming up on Netflix, so Powerhouse Studios they do what is it? Castlevania, Seis Manos, there's Blood Gods and Heroes or something like that, Blood of Heroes or something. It was like a Greek mythology style anime. So that studio that was doing that animation, I just loved a lot of their work, and they do a lot of trailers for games and whatnot. So I decided, and they're an Austin studio, so they're pretty local. I always thought, well,
cool.
if you know what hits the fan, I could always just drive up there and have a face-to-face meeting. Worst case scenario, it's not like out of. So I called them up, and they were lucky enough to, I was lucky enough that they had an opening for, another project. And so I just got to sit in and be like, hey, I've got X amount of budget to do a cartoon. I always knew I wanted to do an animated intro. All my favorite games, especially like when I think of my favorite games, I think of the Super Nintendo to PlayStation 1 era. Those two systems right there and the everything in between was the perfect time. I know that like trying to get my kids to play Resident Evil, they're like, this isn't scary. Barry, where's Barry? Master of locks? Like they're just like, I can't believe you see. I was like, no, I was terrified of that dog jumping through the window, son. You have no idea.
I always used to joke that like if I ever had a kid, I would just hide them from like modern media until they turned 20. And then like they'd go out into the world and be like, what the heck? A television is actually flat these days? Just make them grow up like living my childhood. Like, of course, that would probably qualify as some kind of cruel and unusual whatever. But
absolutely.
Man, at least they'd understand the golden age of RPGs.
Exactly. And all those golden age had that intro. They had that like. I think my favorite one, top down, was definitely was Wild Arms.
Oh,
like the anime intro.
I'm hearing the sound of that intro right now, but
exactly.
that
and then all the like music
Morricone
ripped off from, like,
inspired
the old cowboy westerns, but made better anyways.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I really loved that one, and I loved all like people don't understand. Like we were so hurting for like any type of entertainment back in the day. We would literally just watch those videos on repeat over and over and over. I would get to a part in an RPG where I couldn't beat anymore, and I'd stop. But then I'd go back and I'd watch that intro like a dozen more times. Like, okay, let's go, let's do this again. Like
oh man,
those are like hype trailers. Like every time I didn't ever skip. I like watched the thing every single time for most games. Some of them were garbage, but for the RPGs, it was like early cinema. I was like, this is a movie in a game.
Yes.
I was like trying to explain it to my dad, and he's like, oh yeah, okay, son, whatever.
Dude, it was mind blowing. So I couldn't get Chrono Trigger on Super Nintendo for a long time, but I was able to find it. My jaw dropped. It hit the floor when I found it in like a Walmart on PlayStation, like a greatest hits copy, and I was just like, this is what? And then I plugged it in, I play it, and I tried to play Final Fantasy first, and I was just like, I don't know, this looks weird. I put it back. I put in Chrono Trigger. Perfect. Like it was. It sure there was a load time, but I mean, in the grand scheme, like I'll wait a few seconds. It's fine. Like I got nothing to do. I'm not in a hurry. And then like the cutscenes would kick in with Akira Toriyama's like anime art style, like straight out of Dragon Ball Z, but with extra shading and extra production. And it's just like, dude, I fell deeper in love with Chrono Trigger at that point. It adds to the experience
so much.
Akira Toriyama is actually probably my biggest inspiration for creating this universe too. When it comes from the Eastern Point, because like we were talking about earlier with anime, he made like the perfect worlds where like the goofiest shit and the most wild, awesome shit happened in these same like sometimes within episodes, or just in the next arc or whatever, and like. That's something that I'll always take away from his art and the early Dragon Warrior stuff and like that kind of like it's just simple. It's all fun, forward, and also cool. It's just like bright colors, but also dark things. So like all that makes sense. And like whenever you have that introduction, the intro that kind of like can like open that world for you, like you don't know anything about this world, but all of a sudden you're invested. You get like you see all these bull shots. You're like, oh my god, now they're on a spaceship. Oh my god, now they're fighting a dinosaur. Oh my gosh, they're fighting a dinosaur on a spaceship. You're like, there's just too many things to jump between one scene to another. That like you're like, this world must be massive if this is just the tip of the iceberg. That sense
Mhm.
of like, ready to dive in, which is also what I like about the isekai genre too. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of terrible isekai out there, but I still like a lot of them too because it's that sense of immersion and world building where you get like when you see a character who's ready to you know, go into a new world, and from the player's point of view or from the viewer's point of view, you're learning the world with them. It just makes sense as a
Yeah.
storytelling. I'm surprised that it's not used more often.
Mm-hmm.
People like to lump them all together, but it's like that. It's like a fish out of water scene. Is a typical fish out of water story, but
Uh-huh.
with like all these other different stakes and imagination behind it, because you can literally rewrite the entire universe, and just people just it's interesting to see how the worlds differ from the regular world to even the fantasy world. Like, that's already intriguing as a concept.
I remember seeing your post where it's like a fish out of water story, and then he just has the flex tape isekai. It's like that's
Exactly.
perfect. Oh man.
That's how it feels, like, and I like that. Like, I love really in-depth stories, but I also like stuff that's just fun on the surface, like a fun ride. I miss the old popcorn flicks. Now everything's like Rotten Tomatoes and like, oh, it's a 10%, 30%, this, that. I feel like the stuff that's like 90% or 100%, I'm like, eh. And the stuff that's like
Yeah.
20 to 30, 40% is like, you know what? I
Let's give
really
that a
like
shot.
this.
Yeah. Cause I mean,
That's
like,
the
you know what I rewatched last night? I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard of this movie. If not, it's a crying shame, but it's called Surf Ninjas. I
Oh,
actually
of course.
just rewatched that last night with Amy. Losing it over, Rob Schneider's Money Can't Buy Knives monologue. Oh god. It's a terrible movie, but it's also a fantastic movie. And
And they
uh
all were terrible movies. Like,
oh
even the
yeah.
best movies back then were pretty terrible. Like,
Yeah.
I'll get a lot of crap for this, but like the first couple Star Wars, they are great. But it is a bit silly if you think about it from today's point of view. I mean, there's not one camera in the Death Star. They're like all hiding behind pillars like this the whole time. You're like, and then hiding and inching up behind the others. Like, there's so many
Yep.
plot holes. If you're going into a story like that, looking for plot holes to blow up your fun, then you're always gonna find them. So like, I like how isekai and anime and
Yeah.
RPGs kind of is like, you know what? We don't need to look over there. It's fine. There's
Yeah.
just a monster here now. There's just an orc now, and he's
Yeah.
cool. It doesn't matter the rules. We're learning these rules because these universes are completely different than our own, and we get to make the rules, and they can all be equally batshit crazy or completely relevant at the end. You never know.
Yeah. Tropes are schlock, but hey, that's my schlock. I like that schlock.
You
uh
can't tell a noir story or a buddy cop story without the tropes. It's
that's
nothing but tropes.
that's how it is done. So let's shift gears once more. Let's talk a little bit about like your business and marketing and future plans here, because with Q4 2025 is apparently kind of your target release. How's your development schedule looking right now with what's left to tackle? I mean, is that still looking realistic? How are things?
No, not at all. I'm
Okay,
sorry, guys.
that's okay.
This is like the conversation I've been putting off like forever for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, Q4 2025. Like, it's getting there. Like, years ago, it made sense,
Mm-hmm.
but like we said, we have all these different projects going on, and I'm financing this thing completely myself. So it's
Oh
like
wow.
I could
Yeah.
have had it made by now if I really wanted to just burn up savings, but I have to also like eat and pay for my kids,
Oh, it's so selfish.
lunches and schooling and all that. So it's just like,
Uh-huh.
I think that the problem with an RPG like this is the scope, no matter what you do, is going to get out of is going to be bigger than you ever imagined. Like,
Uh-huh.
they say, like, you take it and then you double it, but it's more like triple it or whatever, because their scope really never is done until you get that vertical slice done. And then
Mhm.
once you have the vertical slice, you have a better look at like, okay, this amount of time and this amount of talent and budget translates into this amount of gameplay. But at the same time, it also kind of guides you in the direction of your project towards my familiar. It's not going to be a 30 to 150 hour game. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I want to be more concise. I'm looking for more like a 12 to 16-hour gameplay, something like the classics like Chrono Trigger, Super Mario
Yeah.
RPG, the games that like I grew up and kind of were introduced me to this kind of genre. So like to get to that where this game needs to be at 12, 16 hours, it's going to be at least next year. Could linger more. It also
Mhm.
depends. I'm looking for a publisher right now. I would love to hit it consoles on launch, you know. So
Oh
like
yeah.
I could easily see PC being postponed more than a year because I'm trying to launch with console ports at the same time, you know, and trying to hit like a maximum strategy because my familiar is a little bit unique. It's not just like a small mom and pop indie kind of. It's not just one person or two people working it
It's
with
a
the
big
elbow
band.
grease and all the talent.
Mhm.
It's a large machine and it takes a lot of money to run the machine and it's just it's bigger than me and it needs to be this thing and it has to have this certain amount of time to become the thing that it needs to be. So I'm not trying to push I know some people will be disappointed, but at the end of the day, the game has to be the best version of itself before I'm ready for it to be out. And to
Yeah.
do that, I'm probably going to need a strategic partner. I'm looking at
Mhm.
publishers who can help me get port to consoles, get localizations, because let's be realistic. Let's say I did rush this and launched later this year or early next year. Then I would have to go one localization at a time, one port at a time. Then I couldn't make DLC. Then I'm talking about this. My familiar is just not taking another year or a year and a half or 2 years. It's talking about 5, 6 years to really get it to where it needs to be. I'd rather get it somewhere like to where in a year and a half, 2 years, it's everything that everyone needs it to be across the board and I can
Yeah.
hit all the markets at the same time, and then I can just focus on my DLC because my thing is I
Oh.
really want to use future sales
Mhm.
to make free DLC. Like
Fr
I have this
Free
story is going
DLC.
to be free DLC. Like as long as people will still keep buying it, I will promise to keep making DLC for it as long as I can fiscally afford it.
Wow.
And and if unless, you know, maybe, you know, 2 or 3 of them I drop and like, "Okay, that's the story I need to tell. I wanna save something for the next game," or whatever. But My Familiar to me, I don't even really see it as needing a sequel. I feel like I could just keep telling the story the same way a good anime would have multi-arcs, you know, like,
Ugh.
for instance, I think of, like, the Bleach saga, but then if you just stopped it after Aizen, you know, like, just,
Yeah.
like, that would be ideal for me, you know, you have, like, the 1, 2, and then the last
Uh-huh.
knockout kind of punch.
This man
I
is
could
saying all the
totally
right
see.
things.
But are you counting the filler arc or are you counting the
No, sorry, no filler here, and
Okay,
No
that's another
okay.
thing about
bouts.
this
Get
game.
out of here.
Some people might not appreciate that this is a very linear game. Like you are
Oh,
going
that's
forward
okay.
momentum. There are hubs for exploration. There's like Twinkle Row. I like to plan these big hubs where you can go and take your
Oh
time and
yeah.
like and progress the story and find secrets.
That
But
city that we
the
encountered
hallways and the
first thing.
dungeons in between there, they're very linear. It's very narrative driven, forward
Uh-huh.
momentum, even for the story. Like the idea is you're trying to get the heck off this island. So like it just makes sense that you're just trying to skedaddle through everything. So, like,
Yeah.
I'd
It
like to do
was
at the end was that
it was so fun to explore that first like town because I know that it opened up and I could go in a lot of different directions and it felt like I could just spend hours like just exploring and finding hidden things and just because it the world definitely has a lot of small hidden things to be found like that side trading quest that I stumbled upon and then eventually you assisted with its conclusion. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
and, and it just feels like there's so much tucked into all the different corners that I definitely wanted to take my time and explore as thoroughly as I could. Knowing even though that I was like on a time crunch of like that was the night I had to stream it. So I cannot wait to actually get hands on and be able to because I think when you say like 16 to 20 hours, I'm assuming that also you probably mean
12
like
to 16.
if 12 to
Over
16.
16.
Sorry. 12 to
Don't
16.
get me promising 20
My
hours over
bad. My
here.
bad.
Not
I
yet. Maybe
meant
with DLC
the
would
way
be.
I play it though. And I think something classic guys can tell you the way I play games is kind of like not the way other people do. So I could probably stretch it to 30, 40.
Oh, when it comes to streamers, whatever hours you're saying is the developer times 2.
Exactly.
That's our rule.
It's
Yeah.
whatever the developer
Between
says, then you double it. or triple
Yeah.
it.
Because
There are
you're not
things I'd
gonna.
like
But
do to
not
extend
for
the
everybody
tail.
playing solo. No.
Yeah.
Like doing free DLC and like doing some stuff. So like there is a point in the game to where you kind of have like that Final Fantasy VI World of Ruin moment where like
Oh,
it's fun to backtrack and see people like okay how things have changed and where this
yeah.
character is now kind of stuff. So there's going to be a lot of incentive I think to go back and backtrack some of these hubs and some of that stuff will change. Adding DLC, we'll add some new zones. So like but we just want to make sure that like it's a very dense ride. We can always
Yes.
add things that add playability. For instance,
Yeah.
like if I really wanted to make my game like 30, 40 hours, I would just revamp the combat to make it take longer. I mean, that's
Add
the way
more
that I think
baddies.
most games kind of like you spend
Mm-hmm.
most of your time in a lot of these RPGs in the combat system, and some of them can kind of
Yeah.
drag. At least to me, I prefer things quicker and snappier. I
Yeah.
appreciate things like that Earthbound system when you out leveled something and you touch it and you disappeared. So stuff like that,
Oh,
you know,
it's so
makes
nice.
slice of life kind of makes you momentum and also kind of gives you okay, it's time to move on, you know, kind of stuff. So like
Yeah, this
that's
is
always a
exactly
big
something I was telling my viewers. Well, it feels like not that long ago, but I don't know how long the video came out. But it was talking about how shorter RPGs are actually a better value for your time because a lot of people don't realize that the time that when you buy a game, that is one of the costs. And some people think that when you play the game, that the time that it fills is the output. But no, that's actually also one of the costs. Is your time, and the output is just the entertainment and the experience that you get out of the game when you're playing it, and the joy that it provides you. And if that's diluted by having to fight the same, 3 palette swaps of like one enemy in an area for hours on end just to get to the exit, then I mean you're just not experience. Your time could be spent better on denser games with that
right. I mean,
forward
the asset
momentum.
reuse in an RPG or game of this scope is inevitable.
Oh,
But
I'm
this
not
allows
criticizing
us
that.
to kind no, but it's okay. I totally agree with what you're saying too. That was kind
Yeah.
of one of the things we put into our thoughts too. It's like
Mm-hmm.
we don't just throw another enemy and just reskin it, essentially. I mean, or just recolor it slightly. We
Mm-hmm.
will reskin key features, key animations, and stuff to where like we have kind of like a set system to where like each enemy will be used probably 2 or 3 times, but they will be so vastly different skills, and they just the only thing that's similar is kind of a base sprite that gets altered wildly,
Sure.
or like we'll reuse buildings with a different palette swap here and there, but we'll add
Yeah.
different items and stuff like that. So the reuse is always going to be there, but with these shorter stories, we can afford to put better art in it, more
Yeah.
music, denser music, better art, better writing. Like we get to put the polish is so polished that everyone where it feels better as opposed to you don't feel lacking from the second to second. To me, RPGs are all about pacing. Some people like to grind. I like parts in RPGs where I can grind if it makes
Mm-hmm.
sense, like mini games here or there, like the golden chocobo, or you want all the materia, that kind of stuff. I think those kind of things are more important to me than just grinding through sheer amounts of energy enemies to get the right experience or this and that. So
Yeah.
I want to emulate a different set of story. I don't want to emulate the RPGs that are like stretching your wallet to these days. I want to emphasize the RPGs that I grew up playing,
Mm-hmm.
but the mercy to your wallet is it's an indie game, so it's going to be like 25 bucks versus like paying all of your 60 to 80 allowance birthday money dollars that you saved up for years as a kid. This
Yeah.
is hopefully a lot more manageable.
God. I mean, honestly, I'd I'd pay the 20-25 for what I played already on the demo. That was a heck of an experience. I want to go back, but I might at some point. When the game comes out, I'll do it. But now we've hinted at it a little bit before already, but some players are pretty curious about the potential of a console release, especially the Nintendo Switch. Can you share your plans or hopes regarding the platforms?
So you hear it here first. We will definitely come out to Switch for sure, 100%.
Oh,
I don't know what the timeline looks like,
okay.
but I would like to do I would like to launch at least PC and Switch. That would be
Yeah.
good for me. If I find a different strategic partner, then I would love to also be PlayStation 5, Xbox, Switch 2, like all those things. I don't know how the Switch 2 thing works out yet. That's a whole nother can of worms, I'm sure, but
Sure.
I'm sure it's, but
Mhm.
ideally, yeah, so I want to launch on Switch. I would love to launch on everything. It would be great to get some like Game Pass money for, PlayStation and Xbox. I'm not against it.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, but consoles are definitely, that's also why, one of the reasons why we're definitely not launching this year is because I want to make sure I do this thing right.
Yeah.
This is also just like, it's my savings and everything. I want to hit this thing at the right time to have the maximum impact, and not for just selfish financial reasons. Selfish
I get
financial
that.
reasons, don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
But I'm more concerned about this game, the finances to continue the DLC, and just I want this game to get out there and be the best version of itself. So
Mhm.
I think that, to me, as a business-minded person, I don't think it's in the cards to just kind of like do a completely bootstrap campaign. I think I need to find some people to kind of help me get this thing, because I feel like it's such a good game. It has such quality to it that people kind of expect more out of it too. Like
Mhm.
a game like Sea of Stars probably costs millions. We are
Oh
running
yeah.
on like not even a fraction of any of that kind of stuff. And so it's
Mhm.
like, like a sixth of a budget, like that kind of a game. And we're trying to compete with the same shelf space with games that have that same kind of wow factor too. So I really need to play to my strengths with the design, the pacing,
100%.
everything, but also the release strategy. And I would rather take a little bit longer and get everything right and upset everyone one system, one port at a time, as I'm just like, slowly drowning, and then I
Ugh.
can't fulfill these promises to people.
Mhm.
Um, Same thing with a Kickstarter. Like last time I was going to come on here, I was going to be ready to announce like a Kickstarter, and we're going to
Ugh.
do this immediately. And
Uh-huh.
then like I entered the wrong banking information, so it ended up delaying the Kickstarter. And I was
Mhm.
like, okay, I'm not going to hit this window. Okay, I'll do it next week or a week after that. And then
Mhm.
the tariffs hit. I'm like, oh my god, my whole
Yep.
theme for my Kickstarters were going to be physical consoles. Like I'm
Ah.
already making my game. I have the budget to make it. I just wanted to do a great physical launch, for people who wanted physicals, have big collector's editions and all that stuff. And now I'm just like, well, I guess I have to sit and wait and see what all this craziness kind of lands, because I can't afford to give someone a $100 to $300 collector or whatever if it's going to be double the price amount on the
Oh
whim,
gosh.
of somebody, like, and stuff like. I Not
Yeah.
only would it end up costing me money potentially, but it would disappoint people, and then I'd have to, under promise over promise the things that I couldn't, and under deliver. And to me, I just rather sit back and make sure the timing and everything makes sense to where I can give people the best product, and just hope that people have the patience and understand that, you know, these games, they're not made, and not just trying to belittle, like they're not made overnight, like of course, but no, it's more than that. They are made at night. They're made at
Oh
night
yeah.
while we're losing all our sleep. I get home from work and I do 5 more hours of work after I put all the kids to bed and make dinner and all these
Yeah.
things. So it's like,
I feel that.
we want this game to get out there, and we want this on as many platforms and as many languages as possible, but we just have to take a realistic approach to how those roll out. And
Mhm.
I think for my familiar, it's definitely going to be on consoles. I mean, I'm a console player. If I can sit back, I'm an Xbox player too, so I'm one of the rare Xbox RPG guys. Like, yes, we got
What?
one.
You do
Like
exist.
on the Game Pass or something.
Yeah. Oh man.
But so
A
if I can
rare
sit back and
breed.
take it easy on my back and stretch it the other way wrong, as opposed to like, hunched over a
Yep.
computer screen all day and kind of counteract it, I'll do that instead of playing over a PC.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the trick is you got to get one of these lumbar support things, because at a certain age, lumbar support is like the most like important thing in the world. Otherwise, I'd never be able to do what I do. Uh,
Yeah, I've got like 4 or things, they just don't work, and I'm just like weirdly like hunt by the like I'll start here and
hmm
I'll just
Oh yeah.
slowly get
Ooh.
there every single time, that's
Yep.
just how it is.
Mm.
Oh man. So, I'd say that it seems to me like you've effectively built quite a bit of buzz around My Familiar. So, what has been your favorite marketing approach for this and achieving this buzz? And what has any feedback around this surprised you so far?
Well, first of all, from my position, it's almost like, have I generated enough buzz? I mean, have I generated buzz? Because like I remember these milestones. I remember back in the day when just getting like a demo out and getting the first few wish lists in. I was like, I got 3 wish lists last night. Like I was
Yeah.
just like stoked for all these things, and it's just
Mhm.
slowly, or even the building up Twitter, unfortunately, and all these social
Hmm.
media platforms. Like I slowly was in. It felt it was you're always in the trenches and you can barely look up to see. You kind of lose objectivity of like,
Oh, I
is anyone
know.
listening? I get more shares, I get more whatever. I'm getting more wish lists, obvious, but like you get to kind of feeling like you're saying the same few things in the void and stuff. So like
I definitely feel like
I
you
think
guys
that
are getting some traction here. At least from myself and Baku, and I don't know what that counts for, but
No,
we are incredibly hyped, and I know that our audience here on HitPoint is incredibly hyped. And it's just, uh, yeah. Anyways,
my my
no,
advice would be like, like with the building the buzz or in the feedback and all that kind of stuff is like or just building the game in general. Build the game you want to build. I know that there's conflicting camps where it's like, oh, build the game you want to play, or build the game that other people want to play. This they all kind of have to align in some weird way. Like
yeah,
you can't build the game unless it's the game you're passionate about, unless you want to play it. You can make compromises here and there along the way, but unless it's ultimately the game you're excited about, you know, I don't recommend building it.
yeah,
But if you're building something that you're excited about, it's not hard to get other people excited about something, especially if it's a quality game. Like
yeah,
sometimes you end up building the game for other people or making a game that other people didn't know they wanted to play along the way. And I think that like people are ready for something interesting, especially in kind of these spaces where we've seen it all. And so anytime you have something new, like the jazz, the western kind of like the modern stuff, like any of these kind of things on their own, I think are great like verbs or like things that like pull people in, but at the end of the day, you just got to build the thing you're passionate about. And if it's a good game, if it will be marketable. If it's a good game, you will find your kind of niche to kind of like build it towards and kind of like to lean on to support and feedback. And when you get that feedback as an indie developer, like I said earlier, it's crucial. It's like the lifeblood. Not only like I don't even play video games anymore. I just watch other people play my video game. And then I'm
ah,
like,
yeah.
going, no, no, you should do this, and they're not even, it's a recorded session. Like I'm sitting there, like over the shoulder, someone this footage is long gone, and
Hmm.
I'm sitting there, oh, you should have done, like all that kind of like micromanaging. I love that kind of stuff. I could just, sit back and have a drink, and just like totally watch other people play, play my game. That's my new kind of like, new playing
New
video games,
hobby.
making video games, watching other people play video games. I don't play video games anymore. I rarely have the time. You kind of have to choose one or the other. And unless you're in a place where you need to relax or whatever, but even then, I'll play a game. I either like it and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh man, I should go work on my game, or I hate it and I'm like, oh man, I should go work on my game. So
Hmm.
I
It's
think that
funny
like,
that the more I talk to you and the more I talk to other indie devs, I feel like I see so many mirrors of like my own personal experience, like making a YouTube channel, except obviously without the huge financial investment that you guys have to make. And, uh, but like in the sense that like it's a lot of it is made, like you said, by candlelight, basically when you're burning the candle at the other end. It's made overnight after work when you're putting in all the hours, and then eventually you realize you're not even playing the games anymore. You're that inspired you. You're working on this other thing that you're working on, and that's become the new hobby that takes up the entirety of your time. And it's just
and then you start a new game on the back burner just
mhm.
for your
oh
hobby.
jeez.
So like if you're like, oh well, what's the next project I'll do? Start making a game design document, the
Oh yeah,
inevitable
that's hit
game
point by the
dev.
way for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, what about second YouTube channel?
Well, I think that that's a lot of art kind of grows. I mean, I look at
Yeah.
the Souls games. You're basically rebuying the same game over and over and over and over and over, but it's just a different world, different characters, different bosses, similar systems. They're just repolishing the same kind of system that they excel at and create a new piece of art out of it. And I think that's not something to be looked down upon. I think that's amazing. I think that if you're building, you should be moving forward the more you create. I mean,
Hmm.
look at all these great I'm listening to all those like the Jason Schreier kind of like game development books, and you hear all the different horror stories. Like this industry wasn't just volatile overnight. I mean, creative
Mhm.
industries have always, been volatile, and they have periods of stability, but you
Mhm.
can never really plan for it. And you
Yeah.
have to like it's one of those games where you have to have enough faith where you jump off a cliff. To make a game, you have to have enough faith to jump off a cliff and not be assured that you're going to find your stride or even make it. But then whenever you fall, at least you learn some new stuff. You pick yourself up. You remove some things. You change your project around. You're like, okay, well, I'm going to go in this direction. This is something I want to do now. You don't know who you are or what you want until you've kind of push through those kind of limitations that were there before. So it should be good to start a new channel, to start a new thing, start a new hobby, start a new game.
Definitely.
And I think everyone's so afraid of failure that that's what keeps a lot of people from really getting into a creative field. And you can't be
Mhm.
afraid of failure. You have to fail so much that you're no longer afraid of failure. You're just afraid to talk to people in a large space or something like that. Those fears don't always go away, but
Yeah.
even
Mhm.
then they work. Like I've got tons of anxiety, but I would have never done a podcast or any of these kind of things 5, 10 years ago. But
And you're
out
nailing
of
it today.
necessity, out of intrigue, and just back then I didn't know anything. Like if you would have asked me this stuff 5 years ago, I would have made up a bunch of bullshit and just tried to slap my face on it, be like, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. But now I know enough about this industry to know that I don't know shit. And so like I'm trying my best to just make plays to the best of my ability and let people learn from my mistakes and I learn from other people's mistakes because at the end of the day, that's what all this failure's for, is for us to lean on each other and use it. Okay, don't go down that path. And if you do, bring an umbrella or whatever,
Oh
this
yeah.
Mhm.
just those cautionary tales. And I think that you can't be afraid of failure. You got to, and if you're going to fail though, fail big, fail on something that you are proud of and it doesn't feel like a failure. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
whenever you have a game like this big, it just grows. It's not just your dreams and hopes and dreams, it's everyone else's. And it kind of becomes this big thing that's larger than itself. And I don't think I have the confidence in myself as much, whereas I have the confidence of this project. I'm confident in this project. I'm confident in my team. That
Yeah.
gives me confidence to come out here and be like, you know what? I could just weasel out some sort of like, oh, this is position myself in the most perfect looking. Oh, I just did this because I know all these. No, it's that's unrealistic. I think it's better to give people a look under the hood and be like, it is hard work, it's thankless work, but it's worth work that is worth doing.
Mhm.
Um, art alone has saved me many times in my life. Dark depressions and physical, mental issues, all those kind of things. That art was the only thing that kind of gave me that raft to kind of be, and I want to make that for someone else, and that's why the feedback's so important. It's not just my game at this point; it's everyone else's game too,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
I know where it needs to go in certain directions when we get to these forking paths, but ultimately that feedback is the lifeblood, and we all the testers that we watch, we're watching it all. We're taking notes, and if there's enough, we don't try and look at just one thing. If there's an isolated incident, you take it for what it is. But if there's the same dots are lining up on in causation correlation style graph, then you know where your problem areas are.
Mhm.
And when you can't afford a quality assurance team, I would even argue that it's better than quality assurance. So like we have one tester, his handle is Leogrim, but his name's Benedict.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I call him the hammer because he breaks shit and he repairs shit. Like he does both things equally, and I'm thankful for it
Yeah.
because I know once he's gone in there with a hammer, I can put the demo out, and then we'll find the next round of bugs that are like really niche situations that just kind of, oh, I disabled this and then this froze my game and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like every bit of feedback we need it as indies, because otherwise we're just waiting to the last moment. And if anyone's an indie developer and they're afraid of you know putting their game out there because of all the feedback that they'll get, positive, negative, whatever it is, don't. You needed to do it yesterday. Make your
Mhm.
Steam page immediately, get your stuff out there, start. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and your footage out there, because you don't want, the worst thing you can do is make a game that is just for yourself. Otherwise, that's that camp that where it kind of leads you astray. It's like you're not making a game just for yourself. You need to make a game for yourself, but it's got to be fun for everyone else. And the only way to do that is to look at all this feedback hindsight, take it, dissect it, see what strengths your games lie, and then you lose so much the ability to objectively look at your project after even a few weeks or months, that you need that outside perspective constantly looking in. And don't take negative feedback as negative feedback. Just take it as a challenge to be like, it either will reassure what you're going in the right path because you won't want to go down that path, or it's worth looking into because maybe there's something there, and you can't put the blinders on to where you're not willing to kind of give it that perspective, everyone's perspective, and honest go.
Definitely.
That's right. Yeah, we did talk about it last week. As a matter of fact, last interview we talked about this, and it's lean development. Look into it, right? Like, guys, for folks who are inspired and want to get into like indie devs, like, look into it. Lean development is a thing. Get your MVP out, get feedbacks ASAP. If you're gonna fail, and you will fail, like, it's not a question. You're not gonna make a thing that is ultra polished and ready to go in your first try
without any
way.
failure. Yeah,
it's like learning to walk. Like, you're going to trip and fall. Like, it will happen, and it happens to every single person.
Just make sure you fall before you get too high.
Best thing to do is just get it out there. Fail fast, fail early, fail cheap. Because the earlier you fail, the cheaper it is, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to like spend like a couple, years developing a thing, never had anyone look at it, and then push it out, and all kinds of like, bad things happening. Well, you just waste years, right? So, agile, lean, it's that kind of thing. I'm a PM, so I get to throw those things around.
You're not failing because of some massive conspiracy that the world just like, paranoid delusion turning it on you. If your project failed, it's because you either didn't make the right moves, you didn't put it in the right places, it wasn't the right version of itself. You probably didn't fail enough to get it to the point to where it needed to be, to where it's no longer a failure. That's
yeah.
I think
it's never a failure until you quit.
In general,
yeah.
Like, I hate my art until like the last 5%, and then I'm like, oh wow, this is actually okay as a cool character. Like, up until the first 5-10%, I'm like, eh.
Yeah.
The middle 70%, I'm like, what am I doing? I want to erase it. I want to throw it away. I want to start over. But if you push through it sometimes, and you're like, you know what? I'm glad I stuck with this piece. Even this is just drawing a picture. Think about if you did that. Now we have game development, which is, dozens, hundreds of different points of view, different pieces of art that all have the same kind of like sink or swim kind of need, and you have to test it all independently, together. You cannot be afraid to put yourself out there and then fail. Otherwise, you are guaranteed you're going to fail. And then you're going to fail in the time that matters. You're going to fail at the big time whenever you go up for your first stage, for your big performance. Who cares if you're out, go karaoke before you go do, whatever the America's Got Talent kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Start small and set yourself up some like realistic wins along the way too. Like, you go up 3 spaces, you go back 2, you go up 1, you go back 1. It's a never ending process, and don't get frustrated. Just know that through the frustration, through the fire and the brimstone of it all, through the other side of the gauntlet, you come out stronger. The art comes out stronger. And then all of a sudden, you don't have to sell it so hard because you listened and you emphasize the things that people like. And you're not having to sell someone a used car like a sleazy salesman. You're like selling someone a brand new car for $20-25. You just got to slap that one on there, that sticker.
That's a really good point.
Sell.
It's a really good point
when
you
you
made.
see all the critique, like, you already know what angle to like sell a thing to. So it's like, man, I've already heard it all. I know exactly the good points, the points that are more unique. Like, I can tell you, like, I've heard so many feedbacks already, right?
It's a really good point that you made earlier about like leaning into what people enjoy, and you won't find out what those are until you put something else out there too. Baku, quick question. Did you end up getting many or any questions from chat that haven't already been answered?
Some, and some were already answered just through the course of your, correspondence. But I do have a question from Still Alive, who threw in a super chat to ask this question. He says, funny question. do you have your characters finding hamburgers and or food in trash cans to replenish health like Earthbound in your game?
LOL.
There are definitely
LOL.
some now. They're Fiesta burgers. They're already in play. Yeah. We
Oh,
find
yeah.
honestly, you find more things in trash in this game than probably any other game. And that's just my
One man
experience as an American. I've put so much trash into my body.
one man's trash is
If-
another man's treasure. One man's trash can is another's
Yeah.
treasure chest.
chest. There you go.
Sometimes you throw away some stale donuts or a burger, and then like 2 hours later, you're like, you know, it didn't touch anything. It's still in the package. You know? It happens. Not my proudest moments, but they're moments in the game.
Oh man.
There you go,
Baked in
still
there
alive.
forever.
I do have one question. I kind of want to go back to what Derek was asking before. Well, or touched on, I should
Sure.
say, about just like the different aesthetics, the different aspects of the game really coming together. Because that's the thing that strikes me the most about My Familiar. Maybe that's my feedback after test playing this thing like more times than I like to admit, and having seen the trailer too many times also. The thing that strikes me the most about My Familiar, it's beyond obviously the beautiful visuals and the music, it's how well everything tied together, maybe more so than some other games that I've seen in all the times that I've played RPGs. You know, sometimes you have an RPG where like the visual just really takes the cake. Maybe the music takes a step back, or vice versa. Maybe the music is really good. The visuals, that's okay. You know, like it's never bad. But there's always something that sort of takes the lead for me, right? And sometimes they don't necessarily work together coherently, right? And I'm just like, oh, why is this music playing? Even though like the visuals would suggest that it should be playing something else. But you know, you let it go. Like overall, the experience is still good. Rarely do I see a game, and this is like the part that I want to throw out there. Rarely do I see a game where the visual and the music and the story, the tonality, the aesthetics work so well together, in conjunction, that I didn't even feel like, well, you know, I don't want to. I at no point do I feel like, you know what, music's a strong suit. Oh, like, you know, the story is a strong suit. No, they just all work together so, you know, in this perfect harmony, and it's hard to achieve. Very few games have I ever played would I give that distinction to. Chrono Trigger's one, where I'm like, the art, the gameplay, the aesthetics, the tonality, everything works in conjunction in just perfect harmony. I can't tell you which is better or which takes the lead. They all do. And
Yeah.
I get that from My Familiar.
Hold on
So
now,
then the
Baku. You
question-
need to hype responsibly here, okay?
I do.
You can't go comparing games to Chrono
too much
Trigger.
praises, right? No, but it's true. Like I don't say that for every game, and I cannot say
know.
that for every game. This is
No,
one of
it's
the
so good.
ones I would. And like, look, like, don't take my words for it. You guys can see our playthrough. You can see this game for yourself. Like
My
you tell
face
me
hurt
if I'm
after playing the
overhyping
game
it.
because I was smiling the whole damn time.
Yeah. So then, my question for you is, you know, in that sense, what came first for you, right? Because here's the thing, story is perhaps someone's forte. Like you work with a team of professionals that work with different things, and different things are sort of like their, you know, strong suit. Obviously, music, we've got Tyler, and then, you know, story, we've got Tyler, and then the art, we've got Tyler. All the Tylers. Every Tyler in the game world.
Just
works
Tyler's
with
all the
me.
way down.
Yeah. No, but but on the real, like, how do you get them to work so well together? Like, what do you start with?
This is kind of like a complicated, multifaceted, you know, I could answer this in a bunch of different ways. But if I was going to think realistically, like the reason why My Familiar stands out is not just the inspiration and the characters and this. I think a lot of it has to do with we spend a lot of time in pre-production. Like
Mhm.
I don't think a lot of indies have that kind of same luxury to like spend time taking just kind of finding the right people, having the budget for it, finding the right people, like essentially the best in slot, Diablo style for your character build, So like we spent a lot of time putting together a good team. And during that first year or so of pre-production, because everyone was working on their other games too, so I didn't really feel like I needed to really, light the ground on fire with my familiar coming out the gate. I just wanted to kind of sit back and let this thing evolve over time. And then having the budget from my savings and my day job, I mean, if someone wants to do this, I would say firstly, don't quit your day job. Even if you're doing it solo, don't do it. Like, I know it's hard, but like, like fail responsibly for a while, and cheaply, like you said.
That's my other shirt.
Fail
So
responsibly.
That's a good one. So I think the pre-production aspect and having the budget really helps, and also just we have clear, great talent. And so like I didn't fight the talent. Like, I knew that like it was already going to be jazzy noir, but then I found Tyler, one of the Tylers, Tyler Meyer, and he has the best stuff. Like he had literally the best in slot. Like he just big band live jazz and stuff. So I was like, I'm definitely going to lean into that. So that changes how I budget from this moment on. Okay, I'm going to allocate this amount for music and this and that. And it really helped that I had a handful of really talented artists, and kind of just helping hone in on that vision along the way. And we knew I can't take, it starts with my idea, but it really takes off when I give it to the next person. Like one of my the one creative thing that I do from the ground up is I do a lot of the concept art for these characters. So like
No kidding.
every character in this game, I've done pretty much every single one of them. And if they're not me, then there's occasionally like a variation for an artist will take. I'll say like, hey, take this enemy and then run with it in this direction, and they'll kind of put their own spin on it. But the base characters, every main character, they're pretty much all characters that I kind of built up in this world in my mind a long time before the game even got started. Yeah, just back whenever I was just like thinking of like I always loved the idea of like I go back to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle and like their action figures and how every character was just worthy of an action figure. I wanted every single one, even if you can't afford it. It's like every character had its own story, just the way I looked at it. And I designed the characters in my familiar with that kind of thought. Like every character has to have some sort of. It's got to be a cool character. I got to be one who will want to take any one of these guys and swap them out with a hero and be okay playing as this character. And so even before the pre-production, I put a lot of thought into a lot of these characters and a lot of this, a lot of these outlines I did, but I never made it substantial. Like I never went too far. It was always outlines and maps, and I'd mentally, go in all these different rabbit holes by myself. But then I come out of that rabbit hole and I take the best of that stuff, and then I take those things and I bring them to my team and I let them, I hand it off and give them so they can go with that template and make their own version. And every time that my teams put their own spin on it, it's only gotten better. It also helps to have a creative director. Like not many people are fortunate enough in an indie space. Most people are just everything. They're creative director, coder, artist. I mean, look at the Toby Fox situation. Like you're talking about how it's not like the best graphically, this and that. Like, but it was great and charming.
Oh yeah.
In every aspect, because that's all he could do. And he had some things that he excelled at, but at the end of the day, the art was great because of that. And so
absolutely,
I was able to find someone to fit even one of those key roles. So as much as I'd like to be like, oh yeah, it's just the genius of being a creative executive producer, like it's not. It's a social thing. It's a dance. This making a game is you hand it to someone and then they hand it back and they hand it to you, and then you get feedback from an outside person, and then it changes along the way. And like every iteration, it could be a better version of itself. And I tried to take that with my familiar, and because of our approach, we were able to make a really strong vertical slice. So if people don't know exactly, is it okay if I explained it to some people who don't know exactly vertical, horizontal? So like vertical slice is like almost out the package what the game's going to look like, and that's kind of what our demo is. There's going to be some things that change here and there. We might have another system or something that we implement, but for the most part, if you play the demo now, it's 90% of what that part of the game's going to look like at the end. Another way to develop things is like the horizontal slice, where you build a bunch of different pieces at the same time, which is faster, but it also runs the risk of, what if you change your mind on something and then all of a sudden you have all this work that you can't really piece together, and then at the end you don't know if it's all going to snake together and kind of
Mm-hmm.
fit and clasp together in the right way. So I took a vertical slice approach from the beginning because we had the time, the budget, the talent. And so from the beginning, we were always allowed to stand. Even our first iteration when we went to MagFest the first time, I think, is probably in a better shape than most demos, even released by, like, some of these AAA companies that have, allow you to have some of these stories. So by the time it was already ready to be seen by, any group of people, it had already had such a substantial level of polish that, like, we wouldn't get any negative feedback. We'd only get feedback that's like, well, I'd like to do this also. Or, hey,
Oh
this would be
yeah.
nice to add this feature in there too. So, like, we kind of just lucked out with our approach, and since not every studio gets the luxury of kind of having that budget and having that team right out the gate, we got to hit the ground running, and we've done so much pre-production that when we were hitting the ground running, we're sprinting now, even though we're all on different projects and different games and different jobs and stuff. For the most part, we've got a really a hot and ready pipeline of art pipeline, a tech pipeline of all these things, and they're just kind of working together, and they intersect in a kind of an elegant way that it's just very minimal, and so
Yeah.
See, I
that's
can
why I feel
attest
like
to that
music.
because
Is
I
that?
saw it at Backfest.
Oh
Like
yeah.
what you said about it being so polished, and that was one of the first thing that I said to Derek too. And I was like, Derek, there's this game called My Familiar that I
Mm-hmm.
saw at MacFest. Like, because we were already doing HitPoint at the time. And I was like, this is one of the most polished game that I saw in the entire, the entire space, right? So
Yeah.
remember, like in the middle of that hall, that's where we have, all the indie games. And I was like, of all the indie games that I saw, like this is one of the most polished games, and it's still like so. I don't know how they did it, right? And
It's
2 years later, we're talking now, and it's answered.
yeah.
Um,
It's so wild, man.
yeah,
I'm
I want to
still
share
still
that
blown
with
away.
yeah, right. I want to share that with a lot of the indie developers who, so today's Easter, and I'm sure a lot of people are busy with their family. And thank
Mm-hmm.
you so much again for spending time here to talk to us, too. And but we do have a lot of indie developers who come and watch the show every now and then to see, whether or not they can like get some kind of guidance, learn something. So I'm glad that you touched on a lot of these things. Um, but I do feel like that's one of the things that we don't necessarily touch on. It's just like the method of which things are produced matters a lot. And not even just for indie developers, any developers. And
Yeah.
any time you get a group of professionals to work together, like how you execute that project, it's extremely important to its outcome. And a lot of the success and failures, I can name a couple of games that I can definitely see they had some production issue. It goes back to this sort of thing where, it's either they didn't plan it out right, or sometimes maybe they just had bad luck, one way or another. Like, it kind of comes back to this.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we got to talk about it. But speaking of demo, and speaking of you liking watching people play the demo and play the game, you did mention that you wanted to drop the password for the Steam build for the extended demo. Did you want to do that now since we're kind of
Oh
on the
yeah, for
topic?
sure. So
Yeah.
if you wanted
Oh.
to download the demo on Steam right now, there's a password that you can enter is bad with a capital B, lowercase AD, and then capital C for ceviche. So bad ceviche 2024. I haven't got around to updating the password yet, so it's still 2024. It's an old password for a new build though. So it's exactly the build that y'all played. So they'll be able to go through all the way through the sewers and play the new
Oh, cool.
boss and kind of get that extra 45
Yeah.
minutes, hour-long dungeon content. And also you can complain about what bugs you run into and save me some time and effort for my quality assurance
Yeah, can
testing.
you type that to us in the comment chat? Like, we'll add it into the
Yeah,
description. That way, people can just go and copy paste. They'll get it in, and they'll
I
get
sure
it.
I
think I
can.
got it here. So is all one word? Bad ceviche?
Yes, sir. Bad
Like
ceviche,
so?
so no spaces.
Oh,
Here,
oh.
I went ahead and put it in
Got
our
it.
chat right there.
Okay, okay. Let me do that here real quick.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, we'll get that in the description. We'll make sure folks have it.
There we go.
That
Okay.
way,
You can do the
You can.
world exclusive.
Worldwide premiere of Bad Ceviche 2024.
Oh no!
And
Now we
people are
know
just
all of
immediately
your
off of it. Why
passwords.
they're like, why would you choose that disgusting word as a password? It's like, I don't know, it just fits. It makes sense. You'll
It
remember it.
does.
And if you have bad ceviche one time, you'll remember it the rest of your life. So
Mm. Uh, uh,
Someone in chat asks, "Will it make my stomach hurt?" Yes, you'll be belly laughing to the
Absolutely.
point of a tummy ache. Baku, did you have any other
Maybe drink
questions
a
before I
glass of
ask my
milk first.
traditional question?
no, I think that's pretty much it, sir. Fire
All
away.
right. All right, so I got one more question that I do like to sort of round out the overall developer interview question process. So normally this only goes on for like an hour. We've been talking for about 2, so thank you so much for spending so much of your time with us. But the big question that I always like to end on is, what's the question that I should have asked? Is there anything that you just kind of like been dying to talk about, but haven't had a chance to like fit it into the conversation at some point? What's something that in a better world I would have given you an opportunity to talk about? Something I should have asked you.
Honestly, I think you asked pretty much all the questions that needed to be for my project. For me, it's just more about I'm more interested in other games and what they're going on. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. I
Yeah.
guess probably if you're gonna ask me something that I'd be interested in is like, what games are you looking forward to indie wise? You know, like that. Because to me, indie
Oh.
gaming is like a completely different category. So like
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
that would probably be my favorite, and you can learn a lot from what kind of games people are kind of devs are looking at and their peripherals for
I
because some of these teams are competition, but also, you have a lot of camaraderie with these teams. So I'm really, rooting for a
So,
lot of
so, so
lot of
well,
there's
good.
this
let's hear
game
it.
called My Familiar. I don't know if you're aware of this. It's a pretty nifty title. I think you should take a look now. And
Yeah, well,
Quartet.
well, but so in that case, yeah, let's hear it. What are some games that are on your periphery? Because it's a good point. There's a lot of indie devs out there, and
Mhm.
like sometimes, oh man, like last year I went and I just tried to going through like a big Twitter search of
Mhm.
just like indie JRPG, indie dev pixel art, just screenshot Saturday or whatever it is, and like just going through all those things looking for upcoming indies that
Mhm.
fly under the radar. There are so many. So which ones are on your radar? And
So we get the obvious ones, which are Quartet and
of
Forge of the Fae,
course,
which are, my guys are working on those in their
yes.
own capacities too. So like, not only is it like a shameless plug, it's actually true. Like those games are awesome. Like, if you're looking for a Final Fantasy VI style game, but with like an Octopath Traveler, like Wild Arms kind of like group
Hmm.
multiple stories fused into one, that's Quartet. If you're looking for like a Breath of Fire, kind of like big pixel art, isometric, just really interesting, intricate systems.
Hmm.
That's Forge of the Fae. With a
Oh,
Celtic. That's got a unique spin too. I mean, there's some Celtic games out there, but you don't really see traditional like Western Celtic turn-based JRPGs. So there's that one.
yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
the two that are probably I'm most looking forward to that aren't related to our studios in any way. Um, Kingdoms of the Dump for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
Like,
We got to
Mhm.
I
play
mean, just
that.
watching the trailer,
We did.
Oh, you did? I see. I wanted to. I didn't go to MagFest this year because it was just like it didn't work out for me. I was having some health issues and family
Okay.
issues and all this other stuff. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll skip this one. But then, of course, the one time I went, Kingdoms of the Dump is there, and I'm like,
Ah,
Their setup was so cool. You missed
oh, I
it.
saw it.
I'm
That was
sorry. It
awesome,
was
dude.
so good.
those guys are so cool.
Mhm.
We actually, I think we've talked to them. Well, we've talked to them definitely both at a convention. I wasn't at MagFest, but I got to play it at Too Many Games. But but when we did talk to them, I think we might actually get to interview them at some point. I think we've broached the subject and we're just waiting for a an opportune moment to coincide with like a something that they're doing, like an update or maybe a release date or something or something. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, man, they're just trucking along, making like an absurd amount of content from the screenshots I've seen. Like, I'm afraid to
Yeah.
even look under the hood because then I'm gonna have to like, holy cow, how do they make this quality of content? This much of it, and it's just like I'll get inside my own head about my familiar about stuff I need not. I'm glad
Ah,
with that someone's
uh,
swinging for the fence as well. But like
Oh,
it's
they've been
almost
at it
like
for
it's puzzling
years.
how well, yeah, but it's not just that. It's like you're talking
Yeah.
about the fusion of everything. Like
Oh,
it
that
just
too.
looks perfect. Like it's just the world, the sound.
Mm,
They even went with the more traditional like chiptune kind of style of music and stuff, which it just fits
yeah,
really well. My familiar, I went with the different because it just seemed to fit, match the personality with the big band stuff.
I agree.
But I love what they did with their music. It's like that haunting chip tune. Like every single track just hits. The music, the art that they did, it's like cute, but also macabre and kind of weird and strange. And they got their one of their lead pixel artists who does all that stuff. I think he just released
Mhm.
like a weird horror-based game through Devolver. I forget the name of it,
Hmm.
but
Oh,
that one
it's
looks cool
look
too.
is it Look Outside or something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
Yeah.
that's the one.
Was
And
that? Oh,
that's one of the artists from Kingdoms of the Dump too. So like that just turned into like from a game jam and turned into
Mhm.
a full game. Like people out here inventing games. Some devs are still out here making games just on the sideline, just out of nowhere that are massive hits, you know.
uh-huh.
Another one I'm looking forward to is like the Hymn to the Earless God by the guys who make like Jimmy and the Pulsating Mass and stuff.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
I
I
just love the look of it.
I gotta
Well,
look that back
we
up. I
Have
remember the
y'all
name.
see, the nice thing is
y'all
we've
done the
talked
trailer here
about
yet?
all those. Yeah, we
Oh
we
yeah.
touched on all those in the past too.
Mhm.
That's why the game rings a bell to you. I didn't Look Outside, but I did I think we did Look Outside as well, like
It's like
previously.
bugs and like weird stuff. I just love that it ties back to like the isekai stuff and why
Mhm.
I have a bunch of familiars for characters. Like I've
Yeah.
always gravitated towards non-human creatures and stuff like that. I feel like not just bad guys, but just people with different
Yeah.
moralities and different like life perspectives. It's like
Mhm.
more interesting writing to see people wrestling with tough choices from different perspectives. What does a monster do in this situation, and what does a world look like when the race of creatures is like more sociopathic and not empathetic like we
Mm-hmm.
are as humans, and that's kind of what I got from the Earless God game is like,
Mhm.
it's like an alien bug-like civilization that like there's no room for empathy, but yet there might be these warm moments or something. There's something more intriguing to it. So like he created a great atmosphere just in those like simple trailers and from the footage I've seen. Same thing with Kingdoms of the Dump. Like
Mhm.
the more non-human, the weirder the characters are, the better. If people are bad guys or morally ambiguous, I love that's more interesting to me. I like the kind of like characters that toe the line, um, between where you have to make up your own opinion about them as opposed to there's like, okay, this is the typical shonen anime hero who's just always like, oh, I'm just gonna get by and make friends with
Oh
everybody and
god.
take all
Uh-huh.
the punches
Yep.
to the face, like
I'm
that
so
doesn't
done
appeal
with
to me.
shonen for that
No.
reason. Yeah. But
I
okay, so while you're in the hot seat, question for you.
mhm.
Okay, if since you're being interviewed right now, if we get to interview one of these guys, who would you nominate? Who should
Oh,
I
Kingdoms
send
of the
a
Dump for
cold
sure.
Kingdoms of the Dawn? Okay, I'm talking to Matt
Oh
already,
yeah,
so that's
I've just I've been in love with it even before my familiar really got it. We were in pre-production even. I was just looking at their stuff, um,
So
partly for
gorgeous.
inspiration, but also to like I just wanted to make sure we weren't doing the same kind of things. And I think that we're doing different things, but we had similar ideas. And so like I
Mhm,
feel like kind of like a kindred spirit with I barely have talked with them. I've maybe through a Discord message here and there, but like just by looking at their project from a bird's eye view, from a consumer's point of view, I
mhm,
see that they find a lot of the same themes and feel it like they have the same kind of sentiments in their art. Not only that it's genuine, but like finding beauty in the mundane and the non-beautiful things in the world we live in, not just we can't live in a perfect world. Not everything's got to be a perfect Tolkien-esque fantasy. It's
Mhm.
okay to have some gritty, dark, eerie places that just make you feel uncomfortable at time, but also peppered in with some lighthearted, warm moments, with humor in there. And I think that Kingdoms of the Dump, I'm just in even as a development point, I want to know like what they're doing, like everything about their project. It's just so
Yeah.
intriguing to me and what they've done that like it definitely, it's one of those this trailers that are just haunting. I read it, I watch it, and I'm like, I have to play the game. Day one, I'm buying it. I'm saying goodbye to my kids and wife for 48 hours or whatever, and I'm just gonna sit down and play through the whole thing and drink a bunch of, green tea, that's my
Yeah.
goal when that game comes out. And then not many games make me feel that way, especially like, nowadays. Like there's so much saturation, so many amazing things, but there's nothing that just like where I have that sense of like, even the hyping responsibility aspect, just like the something that sets my heart on fire. Like I got to get this thing. I want to buy this game, this cover art, this one thing. Kingdoms of the Dump has that for me. As a
I'm
as a
gonna
Okay.
consumer
clip
and game
this. I think I'm gonna send it over to Matt so their entire team can see this. They were recovering from the con flu the last time I talked to them back in like late
Oh, they
January.
they
So
know
it's
what
been
they're
a while.
doing.
I
Oh,
actually
yeah.
have
They gotta,
I do have one more question because it's just
Yeah.
it's been stuck in the back of my mind.
Mhm.
I mean, today is Easter. It is also 420, and that's got me thinking about Whoopus here, the protagonist here. What is he inspired by exactly? Because he's like a cracked out Easter bunny in some ways,
so
but in other ways he reminds
I would
me of
say that
Ickis from Ah Real Monsters. It's like, what is he exactly?
that's actually very, a lot of that's, you could say that about 12 different things and you're actually be really right. It's really is amalgamation of like a lot of things from that time period.
Yeah.
The All Real Monster kind of style was one of the things we had on our like, our dream board kind of like inspiration board stuff, Ninja
Uh-huh.
Turtles, Street Fighter, that was up there. So he is
Ah.
more of an amalgamation of things. In Wish World,
Mhm.
we kind of like there's animals, there's like object head type people, there's like, things. It doesn't have to be like a creature, so to speak, but it could also
Mhm.
be a mundane creature, a mythical creature. There's all these different variations of different things. We kind of made this rule set of like what kind of creatures exist. And he is supposed to represent kind of just like an amalgamation, like a wish from someone who doesn't know exactly their identity or who they want, but at the end it ends up making their identity along the way.
Okay.
Rabbit, rat, goat horns. He's got like impish kind of goblin-like features too. So like
Uh-huh.
there was
He,
at one point that I think we had like a what is the dog, the French whatever, not French
Mhm.
poodle, like
oh,
Boston. That's the one, the Boston
Boston Terrier.
Terrier, the
Mm.
big old like hideous looking
Oh
goofy
yeah.
cute
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, at one point we had that kind of a face kind of like superimposed on there for a little bit for some of the concept
Mhm.
art. So
Ah,
he's just an amalgam. He's supposed to actually make you ask that question. Like, what
yeah.
is this thing? It's a rat, it's a goblin, it's a rabbit,
I
but
see a bit of
ultimately
like
like the rabbit.
Frank from Donnie Darko also in him. Like, ah,
Yes, actually very much. There's a character that's inspired by kind of like that. I love Donnie Darko, by the way. I mean,
oh, it's so
everyone
good.
should love that movie. But that was in one of my top five. Alien and the original Alien, Donnie Darko, that one
Yeah.
for sure. But like, I like the idea of also just the down the rabbit hole isekai. So it's like kind of like this
Oh.
weird like rabbit, So it
Mm-hmm.
is just my version of almost like a dystopian Alice in Wonderland, where
Yes.
the thing about Wish is it's not just about a representation of like the culture. It's about like all the promises and wishes we were promised as the kids, like, all the fairy tales, and if you just do this, you just go to college, you just do all these things that just kind of blow up in your face the older you get, and you realize that
Oh,
those are just kind of like hopeful wishing kind of things.
yeah.
And a lot of that represents a lot of that kind of like we have, for instance, like, a lot of fairy tales. One of the chapters is nursery crimes. I mean, we make
Mhm.
no joke that a lot of these things are direct spoofs of Western, Eastern folklore. The main villain gang is Brokai, which is like the yokai,
Yes.
but like,
Uh-huh.
with the bro biker kind of attitude, like the Japanese, I don't know how to pronounce it, like
The Tanuki?
whatever gangs. It starts with a B. Like,
Oh,
there's like
oh,
those
Mhm.
old like 50s Ozukai or some sort of
Ozotoku,
weird, there's some
yeah.
word.
what was
Yeah,
it?
there you
It's
go. Like I
it's
love that
it's the
style.
the biker gangs, basically.
Oh, yes.
And they kind
Yeah.
of took like some stuff from Western and made their own kind of biker gang
Mhm.
culture over
Yeah.
there. And so it's almost like I love that it's like a parody of a parody of a parody. These cultures are just kind of bouncing forth, and so that's why I kind of wanted to bring back like the
Oh.
yokai, where and so like there's two characters. One of them is more Caucasian, and the other character is an Asian person from the Eastern. So there's literally the Western and Eastern, and so like this is kind of an amalgamation of all of these fairy tales bleeding into this kind of dystopian version of like America. Like this isn't the wish world you're promised. This is the wish
Yeah.
world you would get if wish worlds exist.
Oh,
There's a lot of selfish wishes.
yeah.
Sometimes wishing
Ah,
for a life-changing thing is there's a lot more wishes for just a hamburger or just a new pack of cigarettes, or oh, I wish I could call in sick today at work. There's a lot of wishes that are just kind of meh.
yeah.
There's a lot more of those I think than someone who knows exactly what they
more
want.
mundane than grand wishes. That
I wish I could play My Familiar right now.
That's a
Well, you
grand
can't.
wish. You gotta. That's too grand.
At least
Too grand.
up to the
Scale it back,
sewers.
sir.
Okay.
So there you go. That's the. I think that's the ultimately that was the answer that we were looking for with
Yeah.
Derek's question of like what should we have thought right there. Like that's the unique thing that
Oh, that felt good. But I did
that
also like
felt
getting
good.
to talk about other games too. That was
Yeah.
awesome. All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
All
that
right.
covers everything that I had on my list to kind of talk about. At this point, if you so last time somebody stuck around to the rest of the show, and that was cool. And you can do that if you'd like, but I totally understand if you've been on a 2-hour Zoom call with somebody, if you just wanted to like relax and take a break and maybe just relax and watch the rest of the show, whichever is cool, whichever you prefer to do.
We told Preston 1 hour.
Oh, we did say that.
I'm fine with staying and shooting the shit and just kind of being a fly on y'all's wall if y'all don't mind. But at the same time, I would like to take a quick bathroom break and get a couple of water.
You
I
bet.
actually do want to do that too. So, Derek, are you gonna hold down the fort while we run and do a bathroom race?
You know what? Maybe I'm just gonna go get a drink too.
How about we go on AFK and then
Yeah.
we'll come back in like a couple minutes.
Here, I'll
Okay.
switch to
All
our
right, perfect.
to our other scene here real quick.
This is
We'll be
like
right
the
back,
first time
everybody.
we've done this.
All right, I'll be
Right.
back in 5, and then I'll jump back
Yep.
into the madness.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Sorry about that. Yeah, I figure that can just be the brief intermission. Maybe I'll just cut that out for the audio version. The most professional podcast on the entire internet. Exactly. Thank you so much for sticking around here, guys. And I hope that you're having a good Easter Sunday. There. So I'll just solo this one for a minute here, guys. How are you guys doing? Most professional podcast. Hey, Fabian, welcome. I know, right? First of our kind. So, still alive, you mentioned earlier, Mordor? I think you might have been referring to when he was saying, like, how not every RPG needs to be sort of that Tolkien-esque, like, high fantasy and bright and colorful. And I think your question about Mordor was specifically kind of talking about like, well, Mordor is like not bright and cheerful, but I think he's just saying it doesn't have to be like a fantasy world. That was my understanding. That was my take. But there's Mr. Baku. Good to see you, man.
Hello.
Welcome back.
So, I do want to throw a question for our viewers and all the other folks who may watch this later on, and that is, if there's any kind of indie RPG that you're looking forward to, please post them in the comments section.
Definitely. All right, so I'll switch back
Yeah.
to here, and that way we can see when Preston gets back, and then we can get rolling.
Yes,
Man.
sir.
I don't know about you, but
Nice
this was
intermission.
such a fun interview.
We tried to do that for everyone. You know what I mean?
I mean, they're all really fun, but
Mhm.
sometimes I can't bring myself to stop asking questions because this one just I played this. I played this for so long. It was like a 4-hour stream that was supposed to this is what I was saying about earlier when like I was told by Preston, it's like, oh, some people kind of just blast through it in like an hour and a half, 2 hours for that demo. I'm like, I'm playing this for like 4 hours.
Yeah, streamers a different breed of people, I think. Like most gamers, they'll go through, and it's fine. Like it's what they do. Like it's not like one's better than another. But we really like to take our sweet time and go through all the things and really just take it all in.
That's a solid pick there, Felix. Threads of Time, he says. Oh, that would be
Threads
good.
of Time, yeah. Threads of Time. Yeah, I've got a lot. I've reached out to a couple of developers, and yeah. So the thing that I want to share with you all is, when it comes to these interviews, we try to do these interviews around major events, right? So my familiar, they were going to do a Kickstarter, but as you guys heard, some things fell out and it didn't really work out. But that's why it got scheduled the way that it did, right? With Seed of Nostalgia, they launched their Kickstarter like 3-4 days before interview, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's that same kind of thing. So when it comes to other developers, it's not that interviews can't happen. It's more like we're just kind of waiting for a good time, like to talk about it.
Waiting for a good moment to help bring them some hype when they need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like there's kind of like a threshold effect, which you may hear
Welcome
from
back,
some
Preston.
other people. Hey, yeah, welcome back, man. Where basically like you want to put all of your marketing like around the same time to like push to a certain threshold. If you spend that same effort over time, you're not going to get as much like effect as you concentrate it to break through a certain threshold. So that's kind of what we try to do.
Hit that critical mass. Yeah,
hit that critical mass. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
So we were just asking for chat to give us their most
anticipated indies.
Yeah, indies. And there's a lot of folks who end up watching this like the next day or the day after, and they can leave it in the comments, so you can take a look to see what other people are throwing in there as for your reference, for your research. But and for your benefit, we're actually going to be looking at a lot of indie games today. Right, and the reason is because there was something called the Indie Live Expo, which happened last week, hours before our show, and where they showcased more than 100 indie games. And I'm like, guys, I'm not a miracle worker. I can't do this. I saw like 1 or 2 games. Oh no, well, not 1 or 2. I saw like 5 games. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna talk about these 5, but like I promise that we'll talk about it this week. I finally had a chance to watch through that Indie Live thing and noted a good amount of games. So we'll talk about those. But first, let's talk about the games that are coming out this week, starting with a game that's from the creators of the Danganronpa series, from the 2Kyo games. It comes, it's a new tactical RPG called The 100-Line Last Defense Academy. The player follows a character named Takumi Sumio, an average teenager, of course, it always happens to the most average of teenagers, whose world gets turned upside down when freakish monsters attack the city out of nowhere, launching an all-out assault. And Takumi and 14 other students are now tasked to defend the Last Defense Academy for 100 days. That's the premise of the story. Let's take a look at the trailer.
All right.
Hey, there's Preston.
You were all transferred to this academy for a very special reason.
Yeah, this is the Danganronpa guys. Oh God, so much blood.
Of any and all enemy
yeah, it's not a. It's part of the Despair series that they are still working on, despite no longer being affiliated with Spike Chunsoft. Like they broke away.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
His own thing. Yeah, they're not part of Spike Chunsoft.
I did not realize.
Dig whatever those little like weird little ghost guys were.
The little mascot looking guys.
Yeah.
Every good game needs a mascot, right?
Every good game
gotta sell the plushie.
It's your future.
This is where we make our stand. This is where we finally start working together as one.
So that's supposed to be an average teenager? I don't know, man.
Yeah, just average teenager.
I should feel way more
like the
disappointed.
Netflix teenagers, they're like 35 years old, like
right?
Rip.
It's like it's like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers
somewhere.
Average teenager.
Yeah, the most average of teenagers.
I want each and every
Yeah, but you can see the art style is just like straight out of Danganronpa.
Absolutely, yeah.
The people
Yeah.
we care about
Because it's the same. It's basically the same team.
You think you can screw with us, assholes? I'll cave your damn heads in!
So much cursing.
Gosh, I know.
My ears. Oh, so much death. Oh, all these
Oh, dear.
dying.
Our,
It is the Danganronpa game, so
Yeah.
you know.
okay.
Well, it's not a Danganronpa game. Sorry, I shouldn't say that because it's not.
Danganronpa developer?
Yeah, it's the same
Yeah.
development team, so you're gonna get that. Yeah.
I'd like to see some of the gameplay, though. I mean, this is good and all,
There
but like,
is okay, so there is a gameplay trailer, but it's like 7 minutes long. Wrong scene,
Okay.
Derek, wrong scene.
oh,
no.
oh no,
Ah!
bring him back from the pocket dimension.
Yeah, no, there's a gameplay trailer, but it's like 7 minutes long. So I'm like,
Okay.
okay, you know what? If you guys are interested in seeing the gameplay, definitely check out the gameplay trailer. But
What kind of
for the sake
gameplay is it?
us-
It's not a turn-based RPG, is it?
It's a
or
tactical RPG.
it's a tactics
So
RPG.
it is turn-based. Yeah, it's tactical. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's the tactical RPG.
There's a lot of those games that like look like they're action, but they're actually turn-based coming out now. It seems like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Well, I mean, they're the tactical battle is only like parts of the game, but then there are other sections that are more like visual novel-esque perhaps, but
Mhm.
not without being able to make choices and make some kind of management. So I don't know how much of a percentage of the game is tactical RPG, but it's like there's a lot of things that's rolled in. Given that it's a Danganronpa
Yeah.
situation, I would expect that there's a lot more behind the scene. So don't expect this to be like a tactics ogre kind of deal where it's like, yeah, you just manage your army and then you go fight and then move on to the next stage. Like it's probably going to be a lot more heavy in other areas than the
Okay.
tactical RPG. Yeah, but as far as the battle is concerned, that's where the tactical RPG comes in. Anywho, this game is coming out on April 24th, and it's just a couple of days on the Switch and PC via Steam. So please check that out. And I don't know, but I think the demo is available on Steam. So yeah, but anyways, check it out on Steam if you want to see what this is about. And
Pretty
the next
cool.
one, oh boy, everyone's excited about the next game, Mr.
Yeah.
Derek. Do the honors.
Let's talk about some indie RPGs starting now. No. But funny thing. There's a very much anticipated RPG here. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 by Sandfall Interactive is finally imminently going to be released here, guys. This 3D turn-based RPG it tells the story of a world where a paintress, not a priestess, a paintress paints a cursed number on once a year, and everyone of that age turns to smoke and fades away. And players will be following this expedition to destroy the priestess so that she may paintress, thank you.
Paintress.
It's not a word you see very often.
Yeah.
Destroy this paintress so she may never paint death again. And we have
That's the proper term in the game. She is referred to as the paintress.
Well, that's
It's been 67 years since
That's
the
a-
world
a-
broke apart.
paintress
67
to
years
remember.
since Lumia was flung into the sea.
Thank you.
67
See,
years
you see that,
since
like,
she appeared. And
that
A
figure
39?
in the center? Yeah, that's the paintress.
Okay, yeah.
After expedition have tried to stop her.
Dude.
Idealists fighting for the future.
How ridiculous is it that we're calling this an indie
I'm
RPG?
so reluctant to call this an indie
Right.
game.
I know.
Like,
I mean, but
you're
it is
really
like in the
straddling.
technical sense,
Yes.
None have ever returned.
but
Nothing
it
makes
is
sense anymore.
at the same time though. I think that
But at least I'll have seen.
I think this is one of those exceptions that like proves
what lies outside
the rule. You know, like it's like so
walk the path of all the
atypical in
expeditions
its
came
presentation.
Tomorrow,
It's definitely like been
painters will wake.
independently
Tomorrow,
funded by like a wealthy dude who's just like, I want this game.
we fail.
And I get that. That's wild, but holy cow, man.
Yeah, there should
know?
almost be like a different term for that kind of, even stuff like for My Familiar, like having a budget and having a team versus like an individual. Like when I think of indies, I think of like, one, two developers, small
Yeah.
just people getting together and kind of doing this in their time, trying to, in a tough position and they want to make a really different game or something.
Yeah.
Now it's like there's the
It,
indie industry itself should have like its own subcategories of like its own AAA version and own AA, that
yes.
kind of stuff, because I
Yeah,
don't want
because like
indie
look
devs
at
thinking that they
Larian
look at my
Studios.
familiar.
Like they're a tiny team, right? But they made Baldur's Gate 3, and that's, I don't know if they're technically an indie, but like they did something like wild for their size. So there's definitely like, this feels like a Baldur's Gate 3 kind of venture. It's kind of what I'm leaning toward. Like, not like, I don't know. It, because there's like the garage developer indie, and then there's like we've rented out the this skyscraper and filled it with developers for a while kind of indie.
Yeah, like venture capitalists with caviar and martinis. Like, this is going to be a hit. Tip my top hat to you and my monocle, sir.
Yeah.
We'll be indie in no time.
Also, we've got was it Lasani in chat who was telling you about this game a lot long ago, because the game art style reminds them of Dark Souls. So yeah,
Okay,
that was a direct message to Preston.
Which one?
Awesome. Oh, from Lexani
Lasani?
in chat there. They said that they were telling you about this game not too long ago because it reminded them of Dark Souls.
Oh,
okay,
his brain is turning. He's like, which one is this?
Oh,
Alan.
There we go.
Yes.
All right. So,
Oh yeah. Okay, I remember now. Yeah, I go with you. Yeah, to me it almost kind of looked like Lost Odyssey-ish, like like that one Xbox one where it's kind of got that misty, like etherly, like otherworldly kind of feel to it, where everyone's kind of tense, but the rules you don't know what they are. Kind of, I think it kind of reminded like something that then mixed with that number thing kind of gave me like the idea of Death Note, sort of like like the numbers.
Yeah.
So like I like the intrigue of both of those kind of things.
Definitely. Now, this game, everybody, this one's also coming out just a few days from now. On the 24th, it's coming to PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series, and PC via Steam.
Same day.
And it's
same day. It's gonna be a busy day.
it's gonna be a hard day. Oh man, it's
good to be an RPG fan. I'm telling you guys, like, this is sort of like, if there's like a golden age, I think back in like, because a lot of people say like the golden age, like Super Nintendo, PlayStation. If there's like a second golden age, just like right about now, like where like especially a lot of the indies are coming in to fill the void too, and good quality, but also the the big studios are starting to understand that they've been resting on their laurels for a little bit too much, so they're like stepping up. We're hitting that time, I feel, where it is
definitely a renaissance.
Great time to be an RPG fan.
100%.
So now that we've talked about games that are coming out this week, let's move on to new game announcements. And again, I did mention that a lot of these, actually all of them, were showcased in something called the Indie Live Expo, which we briefly touched on last Sunday. Because guess what? The expo happened last Sunday, hours before our show. It showcased like hundreds of indies, maybe close to 100 indies. Yeah, it was like just like rapid fire, like 3-4 seconds per indie. It talks about it next one. It's super fast. So I sat there and I watched through all of them, and then like made a note of all the interesting ones, and then found their respective like long form trailer, and then do a little bit more research and weed out some more things. The list that I had started, I think, with like 15 games. And I had to like shrink it down because I know that we're not gonna have time to go through all of them. So here it is, the games that I think you guys should definitely know about. Starting with this one title from developer Yoryoji. That is a side-scrolling adventure game called In a World After People. And this particular game was annoying to look for the trailer, because I think there is like another like History Channel series or something called like World After People, right? So as I'm like searching for the trailer, like that series keep pumping, I was like, no, I want to find the freaking game trailer. So I had to look for it in Japanese. I finally found it. So what is this game about? Nearly 1,000 years after a mysterious plague wiped out all of humanity, a lone robot wanders the world, seeking inevitable, seeking the world fragments of memories of humanity. It is a like a heartwarming kind of touching feely kind of game. I think it's gonna make you
Okay.
cry. Let's see the trailer because
Okay, it's gonna be one
that's
of
the
those kinds of
feeling I
games.
get. Oh yeah, it's that kind of game. Love the pixel arts.
Oh yeah.
There's little puzzles.
Uh-huh.
But as you can see, like, it's a side-scrolling adventure. You play as a robot, you walk around, you pick up notes, you find
I like how it
clues,
has a
you
CRT head.
advance.
That's how you know it's
Not
the
even
Yeah,
else,
the
future.
old
it's
like
gotta be
Space
heavy.
Quest and King's Quest style games I used to play.
Oh yeah.
So
Quest
again,
for
this game
Glory.
is called. It's a very short trailer. Wrong scene, Derek.
Oh.
No, Preston.
Oh, thank you.
No. There you go.
All right.
Welcome back, Preston.
It's
So
okay. I
the-
can just be a disembodied voice if y'all need me to.
No, it's fine.
no, we want to see your pretty face, unless you don't want to be on the scene, which is fine. There is no release time frame for this game as of yet, but it is being developed for PC, available on Steam. Go wishlist, guys. If you see any of these games that you're interested in, all the games that we talk about, they're all available on Steam to wishlist, and just make a little note. I like wishlisting games so that I don't forget them, right? Because there's
Mhm.
so many. So I wishlist it, and then like whenever they're coming out, I was like, oh yeah, this game. I completely forgot about it.
Hey
And
guys,
now that I know it's coming out, I get an
Mhm.
announcement.
indies,
Anywho.
good indies are like the Breakfast Club. Don't you forget about them.
Mm.
I'm sorry, I
All right.
had to. Okay, let's go ahead and
It took me
check
too
out.
long to get it. I was like, wait, that sounded profound. Oh, okay.
Don't let him fool you. Don't let him fool you.
It's all puns. It's puns all the way down. So this next one comes from developer Fahrenheit 213, and Scrap comes a new horror game. Oh, you did this to me. You did this to me. A new horror game called Do Not Play. This game is a copy of the browser game Gem, G lower E capital M, which was rumored to be banned on the internet in the 2000s. The provider was not involved with the creation of Gem and is not responsible for any events that may occur if you end up playing this game. So whatever you
Tell me
do,
not to play it.
Do Not Play is the name of the game.
So this game is modeled after like that era of like flash games that are very popular in like the 2000s.
Uh-huh. Ooh.
And I think that's sort of like the main aesthetics and sort of like the lore behind it is around those times where, it's like earlier parts of like the internet where you have like, 2chan forums and flash games and what are those? What are those like chain mails or whatever
Yeah.
they call those? Yeah.
What?
So I feel like it's playing on, glitchy
Uh-huh.
aesthetics from those
Like the
days.
found footage kind of like
Mhm,
stuff.
yes, yes.
Gotta have a clown with knives.
Uh-huh.
Gotta have
Of course.
Derek's favorite genre.
I gotta say, as a business first kind of guy, it's an interesting take to tell people not to play your game. Like
The
it's
big red button.
all.
Big red button. Do
Sorry, I
not
just
press.
had my toddler come out screaming. I don't know how much of that y'all can hear.
Nope.
I had a different kind of jump scare.
Don't you love
Oh,
it,
man.
Derek?
Yeah, I mean that's wonderful. I cannot wait to not play it. Sometime in 2026. It's currently being developed for PC and it's available on Steam. Though, if they really didn't want you to play it, they probably shouldn't have put it there. Just saying.
Wow. Big red button.
It's a
Here's
funny
the big
hook,
red button.
But I wonder how many people will read that and be like, "Okay."
Mhm.
So like I would run like rampant in my
Next.
mind. Like, how many people am I denying this? with
I'll have to
when
try
I'm
that on
talking
our
about
next
the play.
stream just to find out. Do not watch this stream. Yep.
I take it as a personal challenge.
You
All
need like a
right.
bloody knife clown behind you like this though for the thumbnail.
Oh,
Yes.
jeez. Yeah.
The next game we have is called KILLA. Yes, it's not a horror game this time. It is a 3D adventure mystery game with multiple endings by Black Tangerine. Let's take a look at that trailer and see what we find. This is, I believe Black Tangerine is a Korean developer this time. It's got some really nice aesthetics to it.
You say it's not a horror?
No, it's not a horror. It's a mystery game, but not a horror game. Yeah.
Okay.
It may be deaths, but it's, because it's a mystery game.
Mm-hmm.
This might be the first time I've seen like a serious art style Paper Mario kind of aesthetic.
Well, yeah. I think you might be right. I mean, Bug Fables was pretty serious in some ways, but not like that. Not with.
This one looks like it's going to lean into a little bit more darker though.
Yeah.
Oh, it's probably gonna get dark, but not horror, strictly speaking.
Or like that, what's that princess game? Slay the Princess from
Slay the
Serenity,
Princess.
produced by
That
Serenity
game
Forge.
is so good. Have you played Slay
Like-
the Princess?
Me? No.
I have not yet.
That game is so good. You guys got to try it. I
I have a copy of it. I bought a bunch of things from Serenity Forge recently, so I'm kind of waiting for all to get here.
Let's go. That game is so good. So that is called KILLA. And I think all the characters in their name starts with La. So it's a kind of like a play on word. Yeah. And this game is going to be available in May of this year, so in just about a month. But they didn't give me an exact date for some strange reason. So, in any case, hopefully it's not delayed. And it's going to be available on PC via Steam, just like all the other games.
All right. Well, next up, from developer Geno and publisher NeoWiz comes a new side-scrolling puzzle platformer called Goodbye Seoul, as in the country's capital,
City.
Seoul.
Yes.
So let's check out Goodbye Seoul.
NeoWiz, for anyone who finds that name familiar, is
I do.
Publisher for Liza P.
Okay.
Yeah. So not like a tiny, like no name at the
No,
time.
Liza P that was like the Souls-like that was pretty sweet, right?
Yeah.
It's
And now
based on
is,
Pinocchio.
Berserker.
Oh yes, Kazan.
Kazan. Yeah, Kazan.
Kazan. Kazan.
Yeah, this is Goodbye Soul. I do believe it's about a person who is trying to escape from the city in this sort of post-apocalyptic space.
I like the juxtaposition of like this slow, like rockabilly or kind of surfer rock against the post-apocalyptic vibe.
Yeah.
It's
It's kind of got its own like nostalgia, kind of like how
Yeah.
Fallout leaned into that like older nostalgia. This is more like the
but like that surf rock, like Dick Dale. Not quite Dick Dale, but yeah.
like back when Elvis was doing all those movies, like the surfer movies and stuff.
Yeah. Blue Hawaii and all that.
Yeah. Looks like there's some kind of coup happening over there. Military coup.
Hashtag relatable.
Hashtag very relatable. Especially if you know what's going on in like South Korea right now.
Yeah. It's too bad because I'm a big fan of soul food.
But
I do like me some japchae and bulgogi actually.
you say that, I literally had Korean food for dinner today.
Dude, it's so good. It is so underrated. Like everybody's like, Japanese food, Chinese food, Thai, but very few people know.
Korean food's good.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
where it's at. Okay.
So,
Soul. God, I almost called it soul
soul
food.
food.
Goodbye Soul. There's no release date for it right now. It is currently being developed for PC, and there are demos available on Steam. So go check that out.
Yes. All right. Next up, we've got a game from Destiny Bit, and get this, they called it a spaghetti anime tactical mech RPG called Nitro Gen Omega. This has been announced. In this game, you'll lead a crew of mercenaries through the wastelands in a world where humanity lost the war against the machines.
Interesting.
The machines has won. It's like Terminator with anime.
All right. Well, let's check this out then.
This game looks good. Like,
does it?
I was like, oh yeah. Well, I picked only the things that I thought were really cool.
So is it called a spaghetti anime because it's like made in Italy?
I wonder. Is spaghetti western made in Italy?
Yes.
Then maybe this is made in Italy.
Yeah, they were made in like the deserts of Italy in order to, because they were like cheaper, I think, at the time than filming them.
Dude, look at that. Cell shade.
Oh yeah. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the presentation of the there was a dogfighting RPG that I played recently. Well, not that recently. Dang it, I can't remember the name right now.
I'm very interested. Oh. It's hitting all the little like checkboxes for me personally.
That is really
like
cool.
The aesthetics. I like mecha stuff, and you know, and you got what, turn-based RPG? Count me in. Oh wait, not turn-based, tactical RPG.
It's
Count me in.
Persona UI flair.
Kinda, yeah. Well,
now the early access for this game is coming this sprint. It is currently being developed on PC. In fact, all the games releases on PC, Steam. So yeah, wish listed if you think that this game looks interesting, because otherwise you may forget it. Just because there's so many of them.
Okay, this is interesting. This has my interest. My
this is the one that I think
already.
Like.
I just saw like a screenshot and then I looked at the name of this title. Okay.
I picked it on purpose. I did it. Yes, it was.
All right. He gives me the horror, but he gives me the interesting too. All right. So this one's coming from Numore Games. They've just announced a new turn-based RPG called the Backworld. This game allows you to clip between cracks of reality and play through the game in non-linear ways.
That's right.
Have you ever heard of the backrooms, guys? The internet phenomenon of the backrooms and liminal spaces?
Yeah.
Look into that.
I've seen like those concept games where it's like you get stuck in like subway or a giant pool or whatever.
This kind of plays, I think, into that sort of thing.
It absolutely does.
Let's check out this trailer.
Glad you mentioned that.
So you don't want to get caught in the back rooms. Whoa, okay. Yeah, definitely seeing some obvious inspirations here. And I'm here for it.
Kind of like the Earthbound mother.
Uh-huh.
I will admit this is also slightly horror RPG, but you know.
Oh, you son of a... No, it's fine.
It's in the back room. It kind of, you had no choice.
Sure.
But there's also, you know, that sort of Earthbound.
The music it definitely fills in the vibe. It's doing the glitching. Oh yeah, that's definitely Mother 3-ish. And it's yeah.
I have done HitPoint long enough to know Derek's taste in games sometimes, and I'm like, yeah, I'll throw this over to Derek. Take a look at this.
I mean, what is Gygus if not a, ethereal horror,
So you do love horror games. I was right.
Ooh, creeps. Ooh. Yeah, this gives me some of the I don't likes. But at least you can fight back against it. I mean, that's okay.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think like the turn-based stuff kind of takes a hit to horror for me, which is in a good way. Like, like I can
softens
play
the blow.
turn-based horror.
Yeah.
The scene,
it's not the same thing as like
Yep. Yep.
action kind of. You're like micromanaging your your every movement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I get that.
that can get very tiring very quickly when you have to keep adjusting stuff and like inventory and stuff.
Ah, man.
But yeah,
That looks pretty cool. So you can expect to be able to play this game in Q1 of 2026, according to the developers, and it's being developed by PC.
as long as it's not delayed.
I mean, well,
Let's be very honest
we don't know.
here.
We don't. Who can say? It'll be done when it's done, dude. I am okay. Let me be real.
Mhm.
I'm still waiting to hear an update on Oddity. Holy cow! Have you guys been following that at all? AKA Once
Oddity?
Upon a Time, the Mother 4 fan project. They renamed to Oddity
No.
several
Did they?
years ago. Oh my god, yeah. I've been like waiting to hear from them for ages.
Email them, be like, "Hey guys, what's up?"
Well, it's not just an indie project though. It is like it started off as a Mother 4 fan project, so
Mhm.
like a lot of people just kind of volunteering their time toward this project, and it's going to be, probably not like a retail thing, but dude, maybe we'll show you the trailer a little later, cuz
Yeah,
it's pretty sick. Anyways,
I know there's Odd Venture, and there's a couple.
that's another one. Yes.
Yeah, Odd Venture was one.
That's the one that I think has probably a much better chance of actually coming to fruition, and I'm really looking forward to Odd Venture. But Oddity is this. Yeah, it's a different kind of beast. It's not really. I can't call it an indie because it's like instead of a shoestring budget, it's like a no budget, right? But it's a labor of love. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, it's coming to
It sounds
PC.
more indie than indie, honestly.
It kind of does. Yeah.
$0 indies. It's like
$0
Wikipedia
indie.
meets indie.
Mhm.
Shoestring indie. That's a whole category.
It's more like a shoelace hole indie because there's nothing there.
Just the ring.
just the eyelet.
All right. Next game is from developer and publisher Muton. It is a new adventure game called Sofia in Exchange for Lies. In this game, you are a psychiatrist named Philip who will interact with a girl named Sophia with 5 separate personalities through the use of surveillance cameras. And her personality kind of just changes on a dime. So it's kind of a mystery game. You kind of have to figure things out. Let's take a look at this game because I thought it was very interesting premise and play style and all that.
All right. So
See, I didn't
it's about
get
a guy
into
who's
this one.
interacting with a gal who's like just changes a lot.
Yeah, she's got.
Whoa,
she's got
this is an
many
indie, but
personalities.
that's interesting. Kind of reminds me of some PS2 looks.
Many personalities.
Ah.
And you're in a psychiatric ward, I assume.
Ah. Okay. You'd think they'd have the ability to fix up those digs a little bit for as much tech as they've shoved into that dungeon room. I don't know. Some nice lighting, a lamp.
You have to ask questions, hear testimony. It does feel like a
Looks like low
PS2 kind of.
poly, but it's not. Like it's almost like looks like it, like the same way in the PlayStation and PlayStation 2 they had those painterly scenes that kind of had pixels, but it doesn't look quite like PlayStation.
Actually, I want to go all the way to PS3 even. Actually,
You think?
like
With
early PS3.
yeah, I guess I can kind of see it.
Shading. Yeah.
It looks like it's got that intentionally almost like plasticky shading.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I'm actually waiting for this. Yes. So this one has an exact release date, which is refreshing because all the other ones like, oh, we don't know when this is coming out. This is coming out on the 3rd of July on PC via Steam, and I'll actually be playing this one because I love weird games from the Japan land. I like RPGs, but I also like these weird kind of games with different kind of mechanics. Darker games. But yes, this is again Sofia in Exchange for Lies. And next up, we've got our last game. Take it away, Mr. Derek.
All right, let's take it away. A brand new 2.5D pixel art stealth game by GameFloat called Bandit Night has been announced, and it's where you sneak, pickpocket, and swipe treasures from the greedy and corrupt. And it's coming out here pretty soon.
Thing.
Yeah. Let's check out the trailer because that
I
looks
think a
pretty
good stealth system.
Yeah. I don't know how stealth it is. I saw the gameplay. I'm like, this doesn't look that stealthy. He just walks up and just takes stuff.
Yeah, I don't see a whole lot of stealth here, but I mean, maybe.
This is more like flash mob looting than, you know, what is it? Metal Gear Solid.
Super flash mob. What was it called? Super flash mob looting the RPG.
He's getting chased by
In another world, just put that on it, and it's a good title for a isekai.
It reminds me of like Turnip Boy commits tax evasion or something like that. Turnip Boy robs a bank.
Yeah.
I like how 2.5D is becoming more accessible.
Yeah. Well, that looks fun. I like the kind of carefree vibe that it has going on there.
Yeah.
Now, oh man, let's see.
2.5D, that's not a turn-based RPG. Imagine that.
All right, let me
So that's
check
like-
something. Okay.
Oh,
So
you're looking for that?
yeah, I was pulling up
how it
another
almost
trailer.
looks like reminded me of like what is it? You know those Lufia style dungeons or like the what is it? Azure Dreams where you move and then things move around you depending on like how you navigate the grid system. I really enjoy those kind of games because it usually
Parallax?
has,
I think it's called
Oh, yeah.
Parallax. Yeah.
Oh,
Kind of
man.
like oops. Kind of have like layers of things and
yeah, the
and,
parallaxing,
you-
whatever the things.
Yeah, I love that.
We got a lot of that.
I love that so much, man. Okay, so since I brought up Oddity, and since you've never heard of it, I'll go ahead and show you the trailer for it. Now, bear in mind, again, it's probably never coming out because it's been 5 years since they did the trailer for it that I'm about to show, and it's probably never going anywhere. But let's take a look at it anyway, just because it's been a second, and I feel like watching it again now that it's on my mind.
Ooh. Already.
Yeah, this started off allegedly as a Mother 4 fan project. Actually, that was the original name, was Mother 4 Fan Project. Yeah.
You should totally email them and be like, "Hey guys,
I don't know if there's anybody to email though. That's the thing. Like, if it's a bunch of people like kind of loosely working together towards making this.
I only makes it better too. We'll have to do some.
I wonder
research
how you
on
would
this.
monetize something that's been worked on by a collective.
And see, that's the thing. I don't think that they were planning to. And yeah, it's just
That might be the problem.
exactly. Like
If
you
they
can't.
change their mind and want to monetize it,
It's hard to imagine a game like this getting enough polish for an end result without the idea of someone getting compensated for the art like this, because this seems like a lot of intricate work and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into going this thing. I would imagine someone wants to be compensated
Yeah.
for their time working on a game to this degree.
if
I mean-
nothing else, the compensation would be to actually see it come to fruition, which begs the question again: where are we with this game?
I know. I gotta find out.
Like at the very least, if you're gonna do this for free, like I want this to be out there so people can enjoy it, and not just me doing a thing and blood, sweat, and tear, and no one gets to see the end result, right?
Yeah.
One or the other, you know.
See, this is the one that like I mean, it'll say it'll be out when it's ready.
You finally find a guide, you email them. So when's it coming out? And then the response is, "Oh, be out when it's ready."
Exactly. So
It looks so good.
it relaxed till then. It says it in the trailer. I don't. So
do not email us.
yeah,
Don't.
exactly. That is 100% what that is if you read between the lines. So I was like, okay.
What do you think, Preston? What's your take on that one?
I like it. There's a lot of those kind of mother inspired projects that I've seen that had that same kind of story going, that like they started working on as a fan project and then it became its own thing, so they had to
Yep.
legally like rename it its own thing and give it
Yep.
its own kind of like identity.
Mhm.
I like it. I think it looks amazing. I think like the whole like I said, getting the monetization. I can't imagine someone putting that much time into a game and not having a chance. If you release it as like a benevolent gift to everyone, that'd be pretty incredible, I think. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
that
no
seems
idea.
like a lot of work for benevolency, you know, or something.
I mean, I'll tell you, like,
People do be charitable, but man.
yeah. So I'll tell you, like, when I just do a search for like Oddity RPG, like it's a bunch of videos from people saying the game never came out, it's never existed. What it's been 4 years, where's the game? You know, and it's just like, yeah, okay, sure.
Well,
All
okay,
right.
so back to what we said. Look, if this game is truly not going to be monetized, especially if it's not going to be monetized, and it's truly just based on someone's like free time and just feel like doing a thing, expect this thing to come out in like 10 years, you know,
Or never.
or
That's-
never.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing. But why put out a trailer if you're not
It's
trying to make
true.
hype? I don't know. But
Just 'cause
anyways,
it's fun to build something, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know,
that's
and
true.
it
Just
looks
for the
incredible. I
fun.
wonder how many of these are like the end result of whenever Earthbound 64 got canceled, you know, like because there's like
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember loving Earthbound and
Mhm.
I too kind of had that like I never got into the mother, you know, the same scene as like the RPG Maker and mother indie type groups that are super passionate, but I've always had like a lot of respect for people who can kind of keep those games alive and relevant and and build off of something that someone has kind of left off to the side and kind of shelved for a while. 'Cause I remember when Earthbound 64 was announced and it got canceled. I was pretty devastated at that time.
Mhm.
Like I was like looking forward to like, see, they're bringing RPGs to the 64. This is going to be awesome, you know. And then that one just like when they said, "Nah, we're just not doing it." I get that longing feeling. You can almost feel it in those game trailers. Like it's like that longing. I wanted to play another Earthbound game, but I can't because, you know, whether there's not a translation or the project that I was looking forward to got canceled.
Mhm.
Like, I think those groups seem like they're doing that for the sheer art.
Well,
Like, you know, those people who used to live in groups and make art as a collective and just kind of like the experience itself is the end result, where then as
Yeah.
opposed to like worried about like what comes at the end of the tunnel. It's like the people that are kind of riffing off each other and creating something that the what could have been kind of idea. I think that's probably
Mm.
really that's a really intriguing, you know, space to be in because
You know
you know
what?
it's hard to imagine putting that much energy into something and just knowing it's just for vibes and for fun. Like I have a lot of respect for that as an
This
artist.
Okay, so this discussion has actually started since you reminded me of Odd Venture. I'm like, what is going on with Odd Venture? Did you know?
Mhm.
Did you already know what they're doing right now? I think we missed this, Baku.
Did we?
I think we missed something because there's something from early March that I think slipped past us. Okay, I'm gonna put on one more trailer before we move on to industry news. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we can talk about now.
This is Odd Venture, and apparently it has just come out into early access in the beginning of March.
No,
And this
April
is-
3rd.
Well, it
Beginning
says
of April.
it said beginning of March is what the trailer says. So maybe they pushed it back a little bit.
No, I'm looking at Steam. That's why. The release date for this is April 3rd. Like we did miss it though. I'm glad you caught it. There's a lot. Let me tell you guys.
Oh, maybe
Oh,
I'm reading it
it
wrong
got
because it's like
suddenly
British.
really loud for some reason. Oh no, because the trailer started playing on my. Sorry, the trailer started
There we
playing on
go.
my on my browser. I was like, whoa, why did it get so super loud?
Okay. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. I misread. So the trailer title says that it begins 3.04.
Mhm.
And that's why I was like, oh,
See?
yeah,
April 3rd.
March 4th. But it's because it's the British, like, yeah, I got it. All right. So, wow. So, yeah, that's now in early access.
Bonus.
Yeah,
It-
bonus. Thank you for the
Bonus.
reminder that exists. It slipped the mind and it slipped past us, man. So,
You know,
There's another one too. I think glitched. I saw that one a lot in like indie Twitter and on indie Instagram back in the day.
mhm,
Same kind of
glitched.
thing. I think they had like a card-based system though, but it had the same. It looked like an Earthbound style.
Mm.
Kind of like the horror-based, almost like a derivative of a Mother type game. Looked really
oh,
cool.
I'll have to look into that one. I can't find it when I do a search here, but maybe next time. I'll keep an eye out.
I gotta tell you guys, for every indie game, unless we have like a somewhat of a working relationship already, like with Preston or with like Tyler over at Quartet, where we're actively communicating sometimes, like
It's
for every
it's
one
easy
of
to
these,
miss them.
yeah, for every one of these indie games we talk about, there are 10 that we didn't get to talk about easily.
know.
Easily, there's so many. It's so hard to catch them all. So, if you guys do find some interesting indies that we missed, like, feel free to throw them in the comments sometimes. Just be like, hey, did you guys hear about XYZ game? And sometimes I'll tell you it's because it is the editorial decision. We're like, yeah, no, we didn't feel like that really vibe with like our audience, so we skipped it. Other times, like this one, had I known about it, we would have definitely talked about it.
Yeah.
So it could kind of go either way. So, but just to be safe, just throw them in the comments. If not for engagement, by the way.
All right. So here's a section change to industry news, because we actually
So we
have
only got
a
one
topic.
piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've only got one piece of industry news, and that is from Fudu, the folks who has the team Noir, and they are the team who worked on the game Monarch. Do you remember Monarch, Mr. Derek?
It sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, so Monarch is the turn-based. Is it turn-based? Well, it was a JRPG that was made by some of the members who had made Persona
From
1
Persona.
and 2.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but not 3.
Mhm.
Just 1 and 2. And the style is, the storytelling is definitely more in line with like Persona 1 and 2 kind of style. So it's and that game was called Monarch. Now they are going to announce a new School Life RPG on April 23rd at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Eastern. So what's that, like in 3 days? About 3 days.
Yeah.
They're gonna announce that, and there is a teaser website that's available. So if you look for that, you may be able to find it. But otherwise, we're gonna wait until this coming Sunday. Whatever information they end up releasing, we'll talk about it in the next HitPoint. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, cool. All right. So I think though that oh no, I was gonna say that about does it for our show, but we did actually get a super chat, another super chat from Still Alive.
We did.
So let's switch here and respond to that super chat here real quick. So we already answered the one about the question about the characters finding hamburgers in the trash cans, but they did also ask this question is actually just for us too, but maybe you can answer too. Have you heard that Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remaster has been pretty much confirmed? Kind of excited about that. Yes, I have absolutely been keeping my eyes on that. All the screenshots that have been coming out about this game, dude, I'm pretty stoked. And part of me really wants to go play like Oblivion right now. Part of me wants to go play Morrowind right now.
I just started Morrowind yesterday again. I was like, man, it's been a while. It's time to dust it off. And then I would remember, like, you know what? It should still have a sprint button. It's like you play games backwards. You forget like all those slice of life things. The fact that you're literally just like at the mercy of like walking so slow, and I was like,
Dude.
I don't know if I
It's
can
so
do
rough.
this for 30 minutes just to get to the next town.
Well, the trick
Right.
is to get yourself the boots of blinding speed, cast immunity to status effects for like a half a second. Like you create a super like powerful one for like a half a second. You cast it, put on the boots of blinding speed. The spell wears off, but you can still see. And then you just zoom around the countryside at like ultra speed. It's ridiculous.
I just remember feeling like I have to like jump every step of the way to level up my jumping. Like,
Oh,
and
gosh.
just like you know what? How much of this was like more fun in theory? And then like back in the day, I remember before the game came out, like I had all these things like skill charts and what character I'm gonna roll and min
Oh
maxing
man.
this.
Oh, I know.
And then now going back, it's like just jump. Like
Oh, yeah.
leveled up after 15 minutes of that. You know, like
Oh,
maybe I'll go
no.
hop on something else.
Oh, well, at least in Oblivion you could increase the rate at which you increase your athletics ability from jumping by jumping up a hill and tapping it repeatedly as you like on an incline, so you like land immediately as soon as you jump, and you can just like jump up the thing and you just like and that's like 15 jumps. It's like,
Is that some
I
kind
love
of
it.
Oh,
glitch?
yeah.
It's not a glitch. It's just an exploitation of, because you didn't complete the whole jump because you just jumped, but you were on a forward momentum. It's a quick way to level up your athletics. It was, and then you're able to jump over houses, and it's like ridiculous. I love it.
And then you get Skyrim where you're like just on a horse, just going horizontal or vertically up a mountain, just like doesn't matter. Just walk up the mountain on
Yep.
this horse, no big deal.
Yep.
If it
Hey,
works.
Todd did say that you could climb that mountain.
Yeah.
Well, especially your horse. All right. Well,
No one
guys.
stopped to ask is if it was going to be fun to climb that mountain or not. You know.
Well, they didn't ask that part. Guys, it has been a pleasure to stream for you all today. If you enjoyed today's episode, well, please give it a like and hit the subscribe button or something. And if you liked Preston here, and you did, go subscribe, go wishlist My Familiar over there on Steam. And if you're enjoying the podcasting platform on some other platform, like, I don't know, not Instagram, that's not a thing, Spotify, or Audible, leave us a thumbs up and a review or something. It's very helpful, helps spread the news of awesome developers like Preston. Do it for Preston, guys. Do it for My Familiar.
Do it for the Tylers, okay? Not
Yes,
just the Preston.
all the
4 of
Tylers.
them.
Yes. So yeah, go give it some love, and we appreciate you guys so much. And I appreciate you, Preston, for sticking with us the entire time. You're an
Hey.
absolute trooper, because we've been on this call for 3.5 hours now.
Yeah, man, it's been great though.
Oh
Time
my
flies
gosh.
when you're having fun, talking about things you enjoy. Talking about your passions.
We do have a quick message from James over at Primitive Games. Say, hey, all, my keyboard broke today, so I'm typing with on-screen nightmare. Just want to
gosh.
take 5 minutes to type out that My Familiar is beyond gorgeous and exciting, and Chinzy is a real one. So there you go. I think that's from James.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Thanks,
Oh,
dude. Means a
that's
lot.
so
It
awesome.
really does.
All right, guys.
All right.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys all in a week. All right. Have a great
In a
night,
week.
everybody.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.